It seems that Xu Yuanji was really disappointed at the beginning. It should be this 95 Supreme who is obsessed with cultivation. The two drank tea and chatted. It's all Xu Yuanji saying. Told Xu Qian what he had seen and heard over the years. The northern barbarians have a population of no more than 1 million. And the continent of my great Fengyi has a population of tens of millions. But for thousands of years, barbarians have always been a problem on my mind. You can see why. Because the northern barbarians are the bloodline of ancient gods and demons. Xu Qian was puzzled. Ancient gods and demons. Xu Yuanji continued. It is said that the beginning of heaven and earth began. A group of gods and demons who moved mountains and reclaimed the sea to pick up stars and moons were born. Later, for some reason, it became extinct. The northern barbarians are known as the descendants of gods and demons. It's not unfounded. They're naturally physically strong. Power can carry the tripod. From time to time, the yin sea of atavistic phenomena is born in the tribe. Scales grow on the surface of the body. A single horn grows on the forehead. Grows the giant tail of a python. At 3 years old, he was 2 feet tall. All intentions are confronting this statement. The historians of Dafeng are based on these phenomena. Speculated, there must be an era when gods and demons are active during the Ming-Mei period. In those days, humans are as weak as ants. You can only survive by relying on gods and demons. This is why there are now northern barbarians. And we are the Terrans who rose later. Xu Qi raised the bar in his heart. Isn't there no reproductive isolation between gods and demons and humans? He asked. I suspect it's a hybrid of humans and demons, and not some gods and demons. After all, the Northern Barbarian clan and the Northern Demon clan are an alliance. For this issue, Xu Yuanji pondered for a long time. That's when he talked about the existence of gods and demons. I've heard a saying, the god of grain sleeping in the extreme edge of southern Xinjiang. It is the gods and demons who survived ancient times. It is also the only god and demon. Xu Qian's heart suddenly moved. With Lenovo, Ceres is an ancient god and demon. This question can be consulted on the 5th. He opened his mouth to ask. So in the Battle of Shanhaiguan that year, the barbarians of the north and the south are allied. Xu Yuanji excitedly said that this idea is good. We only know. The northern and southern barbarians have always maintained a fairly friendly relationship. Only when it is a large slit in the middle of the space. Are all coveting this piece of pancake. So a natural ally. But it could also be of god and demon blood. Let them maintain a relatively friendly relationship. If only the historian knew this idea. Must be very throbbing. Crossing the territory of the northern barbarians. Further north is the polar regions. It's cold and it freezes from the inside out. But there are still traces of life surviving. I've seen a strange race with their hands on their hands. They have wisdom, but I don't understand human language. It is possible to communicate by gestures. Most of their population is female. Often a male assigns more than one female, responsible for getting them pregnant, in addition to mating. Males don't have to do anything else. The hunt is given to the females. Xu Qian heard this. I was full of envy. Xu Yuanji continued. But because of overwork, males often do not live more than 20 years. The offspring born are still mostly females. Xu Qian suddenly became a little dead. Therefore, boys should be clean. Protect yourself. You can't let a woman get entangled. Xu Yuanji induces them. Every other jiazi, there will be a genocidal crisis. Because the males are all dead. No one can impregnate a female anymore. Exactly that year, I went to the Northern Pole. Xu Qian was shocked. Then you succeeded in impregnating the female. Xu Yuanji squirted out a sip of tea. Sprayed on Xu Qian's face. Xu Yuanji handed a handkerchief. While asking in shock, why do you have such a guess? Xu Qian waved his hand. Refused to answer this question. You continue. Chu Yuanjin didn't ask anymore. That year, it happened to be the year of the male extinction of their species. In order for the race to reproduce again, some females will transform into males, bravely take on the multiplication race. The queen of the burden race will be the first to transform gender. This was his obligation. After the queen became king, recruit the harem, summoned all his daughters into his harem. Xu Qian's face suddenly darkened. The slot in my head is full of troughs, and I don't know how to poke it. He lamented the miracle of creation. It's staggering. Chu Yuanji smiled and said, "Don't patronize and listen to me. Brother Su's name, everyone in the capital knows it. Everybody knows. Your glorious deeds. I guess it will be talked about in the restaurant tea house. Let's talk to Chu about those cases." Su's wife sat upright. "That's a long story. Then I'll start with the sleeping prostitution case. At that time, the second uncle was involved in a theft case. I know my fate soon. I learned about it. Said to the second uncle, 'Don't panic. The case is full of flaws. In Jur's eyes, it's just a little trick. I can crack it with a stick of incense. But I have to admit it. At that time, he was indeed young and frivolous. Underestimated the heroes of the world.'" Chu Yuanjin came to be interested. "What does this mean?" Xu Qian said lightly, "I actually used 2 sticks of incense at that time to solve the sleeping silver case." Chu Yuanjin was speechless for a while. Would love to squirt him a little more tea. Xu Qian started with the sleeping silver case, all the way to the Fu Fei case. Chu Yuanjin held the teacup and didn't drink it. Listen attentively. Hearing the doubts, he frowned and was puzzled. Wait for Xu Qian to tell the inside story. He suddenly opened up again. "Raise your eyebrows and smile." Chu Yuanjin's heart moved. I thought of this Susama's cousin number 3. Before, he speculated that number 3 was related to Chong Xiao, a relative of the temple. I think that the Golden Lotus Daoist is taking a fancy to the special of number 3. Then he gave him the fragment of the handing book. Then get to know number 3's cousin Xu Qian. I think this son is also amazing. Golden Lotus Dao long on the surface. It was a gift of the book fragment to the cousin. In fact, I have the idea that my brother takes it all. Now I see Xu Qian's ability and talent. This is more and more affirmed. Guessing he smiled inexplicably. The new Golden Lotus Daoist is really scheming. That's when it happened. Chu Yuanji suddenly palpitated. Understand that there is a shard holder to pass the book. And the same is true of Xu Qian at this time. Almost subconsciously, both of them said at the same time, "I went to the toilet." As soon as the words fell, the two were silent. Look at each other, a little overwhelmed. Xu Qian is thick-skinned. The face did not change color, and Brother Chu pleased. Chu Yuanjin was not suspicious. Get up and leave the nearest room. Wait for the footsteps to fade away. Xu Qian took out the bathroom path. View the biography. Lena preached that my money had been deceived. What to do? The corners of Xu Qian's mouth twitched. That's to be expected. At this time, Chu Yuanjin replied to what was going on. How silver was cheated. And Yuan said, "Lena, where are you now? How far is it from the capital? How much money was cheated? If there is nowhere to eat, see if there are any temples nearby. Let's go there and make a fortune." Xu Qian almost laughed. From ancient times to the present day, there has always been only a monk. If Lena goes to the temple to make a fortune, what the monks feel in their hearts. Li Miaojin said that the silver was deceived, and it is easy to say. Don't be deceived. You are not enough, really. Rest assured, a little girl has come all the way to Dafeng. Don't you know how to send an elder to accompany you? At this time, the diving number 1 could not sit still. Remember, don't do anything that violates the law of the Great Confession. Xu Qian saw that they were chatting hotly. A sense of loss suddenly rose in my heart. Everyone's hearts are broken for number 5. And me. In their eyes, he's already a dead man. Lena saw that the members of the Heaven and Earth Society cared so much about themselves. Touched badly. Tell me about how I was deceived. Thank you for your concern. I'm in Yongzhou. I met an old Taoist priest this morning. He said I had a strange bone. He is a genius like no other. I think he's a real master. Otherwise, how to make all living beings. Find me special. The corners of Xu Qian's mouth twitched a few times. It's not just a liar's opening statement. You're so stupid. Or feel good about yourself. Li Miaozhen said with some hatred that iron does not become steel. And then you are unsuspectingly deceived by him. He's really angry. Encountered this kind of injustice. I just couldn't get there. The feeling of being powerless is terrible. He was so angry that he jumped to his feet. Lena hurriedly relayed her defense. I'm certainly not that stupid. Xu Qian rolled his eyes violently. Let's see if you're talking about people. You're not stupid, so who's stupid? Lena continued to argue. This Taoist is really capable. Not only did he find out that I was a genius, he also saw that I was from southern Xinjiang. When I left southern Xinjiang, I changed into Dafeng's clothes. Completely disguised herself as a big phoenix woman. Chu Yuanjin didn't have a good airway. What about the accent? Has the accent changed? Lena was puzzled. What an accent? Chu Yuanjin was speechless. The book-handing chat group also fell into a brief silence. Lena continued, and the old Taoist priest said, away from home. Entangling is the most important thing. He asked me where I was going. I told him I was going to the capital. The old Taoist priest asked me again how much silver I had on me. I told him there were 60 taels. He said that it was a long way to the capital. 60 taels is not enough. But he has a cornucopia, can make more and more silver. Put in it for a penny. The next day, you can harvest a full pot of copper coins. Put a couple in there. The next day, it was a pot of silver. Chu Yuanji asked, you believe Lena? And said, I was unbelieving at first. But the old way was demonstrated in front of me. He asked me to put a grain of silver in it. Cover the cornucopia with strips of cloth. An hour later, sure enough, there were a few more grains of silver. The old Taoist priest said that his magic weapon is only given to those who are destined. And he sold it to me for 60 taels of silver. I put the 2 pennies I had left in a cornucopia. It's been more than 2 hours. I haven't conjured up any silver yet. Xu Qian really took it. That's it. Change my little bean to come. You can't necessarily be deceived. Xu Qian laughed. Sure enough, I want to pit the silver in the hands of the little brute. It is useless to steal and rob. Deception is the only way. At this time, Li Miaozhen said that the number 5 magic weapon is invaluable. It's hard to find. How could someone send you for no reason? You have to remember this lesson. Lena sighed. But Daoist Jean Lien gave me a fragment of the book. She said it at the beginning. The magic weapon is only given to those who are destined. Li Miaozhen said angrily, blaming the Taoist. The Golden Lotus Daoist was dumbfounded and said for a long time, it's all my fault. Xu Qian on the other side had already laughed out of the pig cry. Suddenly, a soft voice came from behind him. The original intention of Jean Lien to establish the Heaven and Earth Association was to help each other, instead of making fun of each other. Xu Qian's pig cry suddenly stuck. Slightly embarrassing behavior. Italian national teacher. Luo Yuheng said lightly, number 5 is a person from the ancient tribe in southern Xinjiang. Xu Qian has an endless groove in his heart. You know that. How long have you been peeking behind my back? He replied truthfully. It seems to be from the Rikaboo. Luo Yuheng heard this. Nod slowly. Evaluate the strange power. Unique. Xu Qian quietly glanced at the cherry mouth of the national teacher. Asked, stronger than Takefu. Luo Yuheng said lightly, relying on strength alone. Takefu is far inferior to the masters of the Li Gu division. The methods of the 7 tribes of the ancient tribe are too simple. No tribe is a cause for concern. But the 7 tribes join forces. Even if it's a Buddhist door. Also be afraid of 3 points. Xu Qian'an raised his eyebrows. Immediately came the interest. I heard that the beauty of the country is very flexible today. Luo Yuhan continued. I heard Xu Yuanji talk to you just now. Ancient Gods and Demon series. It is indeed the only remaining god and demon in the world. Xu Qian was taken aback. Rhetorically asked, are there really gods and demons? Luo Yuhan nodded, except for the demon race and the human race. Not all of the existing beasts in Kyushu are descendants of gods and demons. Haven't you been to Yinzhou? The strange beast in the legend of White Emperor City. They are the descendants of gods and demons. Jiao River in southern Xinjiang. The delicate one in the imperial city. They are all descendants of gods and demons. Xu Qian said tentatively, how the gods and demons were exterminated. It can't be a volcanic eruption or a meteorite impact. Luo Yuheng did not answer. Beautiful eyes are half closed. Sit still and be silent. Xu Qian secretly looked at Luo Yuheng. Although the national teacher has the appearance of all beings. Let him see his white-haired sister, childhood sweetheart Takagi-san, 36D sister, and many other images. But most of all is what he really looks like. Kind aunt. Sneak a look anyway. Can't hide the courage of the national teacher. Xu Qian was simply generous. Directly admired his prosperous beauty without hesitation. At this time, Jin Lian had long hair. A legend. I blocked Wu Hao. Let's discuss how to deal with this matter. My suggestion is, don't worry about Wu Hao. Let him crawl around the rivers and lakes by himself. It is believed that from southern Xinjiang to the capital, he can learn a lot. Su's wife nodded secretly. Jilian's old mother has good intentions. Let Wu Hao experience the beating of society. He's going to grow fast. Li Miaojin disagreed with the approach of the Golden Lotus Daoist. The biography refutes. The rivers and lakes are complex. The human heart is sinister. Although Wu Hao is strong, but he was too simple. Wisdom is more effective than strength at all times. Zhuang Yuanlang expressed his opinion. Wu Hao is certainly simple, uneasy about the world, but he is not a fool. Know how to pursue advantages and avoid disadvantages. Know better what can be deceived, something that must be protected and adhered to. I think the advice of Chief Jin Lian Dao is good. Heng Yuan said, I think we need to think about it now. Not this long-term problem. It's how to solve his food and lodging tonight. This sentence is like a chat terminator. No one has been talking in the book delivery chat group for a long time. What can I do? Everyone is just a netizen. This world in the north and south of the world. There is no Alipay that can transfer money to you. Li Miaojin said that it is better to let number 5 sell it. Chess crush boulders. It's very popular with the people. All the way to the tunnel. The capital will definitely be able to earn entanglement. Heng Yuan proposed. You can find a temple and stay overnight. It's just that there aren't many temples in Daebong. It's hard to quench your thirst. Chu Yuanji said that the rivers and lakes were an emergency. It can be done appropriately for nothing. The Golden Lotus Daoist said that number 5 would not steal silver. If you have to let him do that, that's strong. Speaking of which, he sent a private message to Xu Qian number 3. What do you suggest? Xu Qi thought with peace of mind. Although the old silver coin says on the lips, let number 5 be beaten by society. But he still cares. The holder of the book fragment. Xu Qian did not hesitate. Is transmission 5 pretty? Daoist Jin Lian didn't think about it, and his appearance was good. Xu Qian said, this is easy to do. My advice is to be an Aquaman. A famous quote on the 5th is being taught. Bunny is so cute. Why eat him? The young heroes of the rivers and lakes eat this set the most. Learn this trick. The food and shelter on the road will be stable. But Xu Qian was transmitted for a long time. But he didn't get a half-sentence response from Jin Lian. Not long after, Chu Yuanzhang returned. Said Brother Su with a smile. It's your turn. Xu Qian'an suddenly woke up. I almost forgot to go to the toilet. Then he went out without changing his face. I'm going to take a walk around the latrine and then come back. But right now, he saw a little Taoist priest, leading a middle-aged general in armor, hurried over. The little Taoist priest stopped outside the forbidden room, said loudly in hand, "The chief of the guards of the Huaiwang mansion asked to see him." Xu Qian'an listened, suddenly stopped. Huaiwang town, near the north of the palace. Luo Yuheng's pleasant and soft sexiness came. Warm voice. The middle-aged general said that he was a national teacher. "The princess is gone. I searched all over the imperial city and couldn't find it. The princess has a lot to do with you. I came to ask." Su's wife's ears fluttered. Cocked up. The princess of King Jinbei. That Dafeng's first beauty. Luo Yuheng in Jinsha responded that the princess was not in Lingbao. "General Guan, let's look elsewhere." Wen Yin, the middle-aged head of the guard, left worriedly. Xu Qian'an watched the back of the chief of the guard leave. The doubts in my heart were even greater. The princess is missing. Return to the yamen. Xu Qian'an found the two groups of Jianghu guests. He has paid a silver ticket to redeem himself. Now he carries 600 taels of silver tickets in his arms. I was extremely satisfied. On the street, I saw outsiders dressed as Jianghu customers. It's like seeing a fat sheep. It's a pity that the next half a day, not a single brawl was encountered. After dismissing, he returned home. At dinner in the evening, second Uncle Su talked about today's anecdote at the dinner table. The princess of the king of Jinbei ran away from home. All 5 people in the capital were dispatched. Si Tianjin's white clothes cooperated with the search. Busy afternoon. I was stunned and didn't find it. Annie asked. Second Uncle Su was helpless, and then he went back by himself. So it's a runaway. The guards in the palace were in a hurry. I thought the princess had been abducted. Therefore, women are willful. Thousands of people searched the city. Annie's eyes are beautiful. Laughed at the thousands of clans. Not even a woman can be found. The court might as well raise thousands of dogs for you. At this time, Su Erlang discovered Huadian. Said that although King Huai is a prince, but the princess is missing, it stands to reason that it is impossible to alarm the military guards of the capital. Second Uncle Su replied, "This question is also strange. Asked 1,000 households. He didn't know either. Just say that it is an order of His Majesty." Su Qi was relieved to have this speculation. Emperor Yuan Jing cares about this younger brother and sister very much. It's because the old love is gone. It's not right that the princess was the concubine of Emperor Yuan Jing back then. It's just that I entered the palace a little late. Emperor Yuan Jing of that meeting had already abstinent from cultivating. Later, it was given to the king of Jinbei. Became the princess of King Huai. In fact, there may be some inside story here. But these things is not worth my nerve racks. He turned his head to talk to Jiro. Tomorrow is the last one. Su Erlang not there? A look of confidence. Xu Qian'an said proudly and willingly. In the way of poetry, Big Brother can pat his chest and say, Kyushu is up and down for 5,000 years. No one is my opponent. The next day it was just dawn. Su Erlang was accompanied by his father and eldest brother, carrying a lantern to the tribute temple. Once again, he saw the big bald head and the Aoyama swordsman. This time, Jiro was very calm. Just think they're fools. And I can't hide from it anyway. Simply pulled back a cold smile. Chu Yuanji saw this. Some displeasure. Chen Sheng said that number 3's smile was very arrogant. And Yuan didn't think about it that much. Subconsciously explained to number 3 that it will be the last one. He probably thinks it's 9 out of 10. Chu Yuanjin snorted lightly. I almost thought it was a provocation. And Yuan walked lightly. The next thing is to wait for the list. After that, it's your fight with Li Miaojin. Chu Yuanjin nodded slightly. Blood side by side with Hing Yuan. Suddenly said the master. What is the level of your current combat power? Hing Yuan thought about it. Shaking his head, the poor monk rarely fights with people. Xu Qian'an let out a new sigh. Let's say we're all a bit like number 6. They cannot be judged by normal grades. If you look at it from the five-husband system, I'm just refining my spirits. But there's more to it than that. Master Hingyuan is an 8-rank warrior monk. But the real combat power is also unfathomable. The surrounding examination rooms are rows of small dark rooms. It's called Hash. After the students entered, the overseer's trumpeter will padlock the gate. There is only a small window for delivering the exam papers. A whole day. The students eating, drinking, and Lazar were all done in the small dark room. When he was admitted to the hospital, the familiar students laughed and laughed. Be at ease. Because of the heavy gold since ancient times. Master I Ching, plus Daebong, tried to talk. It has been debilitating for a long time, so this will be the last one. For most students, just go through the motions, but others can do it. Su Erlang knew that he couldn't be negligent, just because he is a student of Yunlu Academy. According to the attitude of Zhu Gong of the court to the students of Yunlu Academy. After winning the Jinshu, either they are sent to the backwoods, either delay in giving it to the gentry. Su Erlang has his own ambitions. I don't want to be sent to the backwoods. I don't want to shed blood. He sighed. There's a long way to go. That's when it happened. The trumpeter outside the door knocked on the small window. The sound of the urn is the lord of the urn airway. Here comes the roll. Xu Qian'an took the roll. Impatiently expand and see. By the orange candlelight, Xu Qian'an fixed his eyes. The title is a sentence from the Orange Godbrother. The 3 armies can take command. The horseman cannot win the ambition. Su Erlang, who reads poetry and books, instantly refined the core Yongji. He stared at the exam papers. His expression was uncontrollably sluggish. There was disbelief in the eyes. Su Erlang muttered, "Big brother came into my house that day. I've definitely stepped on shit. This can also be guessed by him. With the poetry of the eldest brother. Now that you guessed the exam questions correctly, then Wyeth will honor my Su Erlang in the 3rd game. I might be able to get into the membership." Come to think of it, Su Qingqing's expression was transformed into ecstasy and excitement. It's really a young man who is invincible. Wyeth is like a long night. Is my eldest brother really my lucky star? His hand trembling slightly. Calm down, calm down. What is the Yongji poem that my eldest brother gave me? Xu Qian'an forcibly calmed himself. It's really unproductive. It's just a meeting. It's like this. Dad and Big Brother have said it. I'm a capital. He straightened his back suddenly. After teasing himself, I was a little more relaxed. The hand is not shaking. Right on paper. Kanataru's sake bucket 10,000. The jade plate is shy and straightforward. Stop cupping and throwing spoons and can't eat. Drawing his sword, looking around, he was at a loss and wanted to cross the yellow river and the frozen river. We'll climb the mountain full of snow. Idle fishing on Bishi. Suddenly, I dreamed of the sun by boat. It's hard to walk. The divergent path is now safe. There will be times when the wind and waves will be long. Straight to the clouds and sails into the sea. Xu Qian'an finished writing the poem. I watched it several times. Make sure you don't make a mistake. But the doubts of the heart came to the heart. What is the Yellow River? What is Taihang? Idle fishing on Bishi. Suddenly, I dreamed of the sun by boat. Is there any allusion to these 2 sentences? Su Erlang frowned. Big brother is really. When I wrote poetry, I didn't know how to call the shots. How to make me understand his state of mind when he does things. How to understand its profound meaning. The Yellow River and Taihang should be the names of rivers and mountains. This one can be replaced. As for idle fishing on the Bishi, and the sentence of the dream of the sun, even if there are no allusions, it's not hard to understand. It's not a big problem to convey what you want to say. So Xu Qian'an replaced the Yellow River and Taihang. Write and answer the questions. It is difficult for the rich to walk. The chief examiner of this Chunwei. They are Zhao Tingfang, a scholar of Dongga University. The right capital of the imperial history, Luhong. And Qianqing Shu, a scholar of Wu Indian University. Luhong, the right capital of the imperial history, scolded bullshit. Dare to show ugliness at the meeting. Borrow the bamboo royal people to sing this song. The angle is good though, but there are more bamboo than Yongji. Put the cart before the horse. Qianqing Shu, a scholar of Indian University, sighed. I watched it for a long time. Not a single stunning poem. Zhao Tingfang, a scholar of Dongga University, said lightly. Isn't that the same in previous years? I'm used to it. The marking officer is also called the internal officer. They read the papers while commenting. Unlike the students, the examiners start with the opening of the exam and did not leave. The gate of the Gonyuan is padlocked, unless it grows wings. Otherwise, don't want to leave. At this time, some examiners sighed with emotion. If Xu Qian'an participated in the examination, don't say anything else. At least this year's meeting will give birth to a poem that will be handed down to the world. Who's to say it isn't? It's a pity that Xu Qian'an is not a scholar. In the future, the history books will record the poetry of Yuan Jingyan. It's all from this person. What is the face of our readers? They talked and talked. They all pointed the finger at the same person. 1,000 mistakes. It's all Su Pingji's fault. This time it really shouldn't be merciful. That's when it happened. A greater sat up suddenly. The mouth keeps repeating itself. Who said that Dafeng scholars can't do good things? Whoever says it. The greater was so excited that I dared to conclude. As soon as this poem came out, it will be famous all over the world. This year, the fellows will be recorded by the historians. The graders next to him cast curious glances. They poured up. Want to see it? One of them snatched the roll. I read it carefully. His body trembled with excitement. The gray-haired scholar of Tokaku frowned. He was attracted by the noise. Immediately coughed in displeasure. Noisy. What kind of system? Immediately, a grader stepped forward and respectfully handed over the paper. Scholar Tokaku took the paper. Glance at it. It was not calm immediately. This son is absolutely talented. If it is casual and side by side, it's all on the house. The official must appoint him as a member. Spring is the day after it ends. Su Xinglian found. His treatment at home has plummeted. It used to be early in the morning every day. Mom will let the kitchen heat up a bowl of hot milk. At noon, it is a fragrant chicken soup. In the evening, it is ginseng soup. But since the end of the last one, the milk is gone. The chicken soup is gone. The ginseng is gone. After asking when you are full, people don't pay much attention to it. Xu Qian asked Erlang with a smile. How to be in a bad mood? Is it the last one that didn't do well? Su Erlang replied no, without any spirit. Big brother, you guessed the right question. Xu Qian was both surprised and not surprised. Nodding his head, he asked, patriotism or eternal ambition? Su Xingyan said that it was Yongji. That's right, big brother. Where is the Yellow River and Taihang? Idle fishing on Bishi. Live up to the dream of taking a boat. Which illusion does these two sentences come from? Xu Qian was stunned for a moment, and there was an allusion to this sentence. I don't remember. Xu Qian forcibly explained that he was fishing on Bishi. It's because I love fishing. Live up to the Weekend Daily editor. Yes. Oops. Why do you talk so much nonsense? The exams are all over. Still beeping here. Quickly tore up the 4 books and 5 classics. Big brother will take you to the workshop division tomorrow to play. Xu Qian, who couldn't make it up, fled with a scolding. Returned to the room. He found Zhongli sitting on the edge of the bed, covering his head in pain. Faint traces of blood. Xu Qian stepped forward to help. Falling again, Zhongli nodded a little aggrieved. Then he said, I found your sister's life very hard. Xu Qian wondered which sister it was. Zhongli said yes. I've been in your house for a long time. Up to my uncle, down to the servants. Luck has gone bad. Except for the child, Nothing has changed. Not affected by bad luck. Xu Qian'an said with a smile. My sister is also a person with great luck. Zhongli shook his head slowly, and people with good luck are blessed. Proud everywhere. But he clearly wasn't. He is simply hard-hitting, not affected by bad luck. Xu Qian'an suddenly remembered something. The luck of the people in the questioning mansion has deteriorated. Listen to what you say. I suspect I haven't picked up any silver these days. Did you heard it? Zhongli replied honestly. I do not know. Xu Qian'an thought for a moment. I suddenly had an idea. If the shade is immune to your bad luck, then I'll take him with me when I go out in the future. I'll be able to pick up money again. Let's test how. Xu Qian'an immediately went out. Call the little bean dice. Follow along. Back to the antechamber. Run out of the orchid pot that my aunt loved. Place it on the fence of the wolf road. Place the dice beans underneath. Xu Qian'an followed the temptation and said, You sit here and eat pastries. Eat us. Just go back. The witty little bean will find it strange. Why sit outside when eating? But as soon as he listened, there aren't many things to do. IQ plummeted. I happily agreed. Zhongli, who had been hiding on the side, whispered to me for bad luck. Bonsai will definitely fall. Sure enough, Xu Qian'an had just put the potted plants in place. It hasn't been a few seconds. There was a bang outside the wall. It's like being hit hard. Immediately after that, the bonsai on top crumbled. After a few swings, still lived up to expectations and smashed down. And at this very moment, an orange cat sprang out of the flower bed. Jump up, a slap to open the potted plant. Slapped at Xu Qian'an. Xu Qi groaned in his heart, hurriedly squatted down and dodged. But Zhongli behind him didn't dodge. The potted plant smashed firmly on his head. Xu Qian'an didn't have time to care about Zhongli's unlucky thing. Stepped forward and looked at the orange cat. Puzzled. How did it come? The orange cat speaks. Rhetorically asked, What were you doing? Xu Qian'an smiled awkwardly and did a small experiment. The orange cat didn't ask. Instead, he looked at Zhongli, said that it was Xu Qian'an, the prophet of Si Tianjian. With the long eyesight of the Tao, you should be able to see the clouds gathering above him. The orange cat's expression is serious, and it is not just the gathering of dark clouds. It's a curse. It's also a leak. Compared to the prophets, the hanging corpse of the wizard system can be called blessed by heaven. It only takes 9,981 to survive. Can become a hanging corpse, and the prophet will suffer 3,600 eons. Xu Qian'an suddenly hummed suspiciously. Cursed eyebrow prophet. It's actually one thing to hang a corpse. It's just called differently. The orange cat said twice. It seems that you don't know it yet. The warlock system is only 600 years old. Defend with Dabong Guiyun. But don't you think it's strange? The martial arts system is perfect. There is still no Valkyrie. And the wizard Buddha gate and the Dao gate. And the Confucian grade is very perfect. It's because they all have thousands of years of history. Xu Qian'an was keenly aware. The irrationality in it. Yes, just 600 years. That's how the warlock system is perfect. If it really starts from nothing, create a system. The first generation and Jingda are what a genius. How could such a person not be able to go beyond the ranks? He wondered. So here's what's going on. Chrysanthemum Cat did not answer positively. Laugh and say I'll tell you a piece of history. Taste it yourself. The founding emperor of Daebong had a hard time starting a business. He has been pushed to the end of his rope several times. One year, he went to the northeast to borrow troops from the witch god sect. Promised that if he could overthrow the corrupt court, establish a new dynasty, then he will worship the witch god cult as the state religion. Millions of miles of rivers and mountains in the Central Plains. It will also be brought into the territory of the witch god cult. The witch god cult agreed. Borrowed him 200,000 elite soldiers. There are also many masters of the witch god cult. Afterward, the founding emperor overthrew the decaying previous dynasty, defeated all the princes, unified the Central Plains, but the witch god cult did not become the state religion as he wished, because Dafeng has one more sky-tearing sword. The warlock system was born. Xu Qian'an only had 2 words left in his mind. The warlock system was born out of the wizard system. No wonder the abilities of the prophet and the prophet are so similar. And the warlock was born from the wizard, although there are shaman's roots. But it's not easy to create a new system. The secret behind this, I'm afraid only the first generation is strong, and the founding emperor of Daebong knew. I suspect it has something to do with the upright secrecy. This may unveil the mystic warlock of Yunzhou. There are also similarities between the martial arts system and the warrior monk system. Perhaps these two also have historical roots. Xu Qian'an diverted from the conversation. Captain of the Path, what do you want me to do? The orange cat looked at him faintly. Passing by here, find that your fortune is gone. Let's take a look. Xu Qian'an listened. The first thing that comes to mind is the question mark. No wonder I haven't picked up any silver these days. It turned out to be because of the 404 dafa of the supervision and certification. The orange cat continued. But after seeing that girl, I see why. Xu Qian'an did not explain. He knew that Daoist Jin Lian had misunderstood. Thought that Zhong Li's bad luck was offset by his good fortune. With the influx of people into the capital, the number of people is increasing. The security of the capital plummeted. To solve this problem, Wei Yuan came up with a solution. He commanded men to be in the outer city, to the east, south, and north. Each build a sturdy white marble platform. The name is Haoxia Terrace, specifically for those who you see. Look at you. The knights of the rivers and lakes are used to solve disputes. For a time, people from all over the world who arrived in Beijing flocked to Haoxia stage. There are enemies in the capital who jump directly to the stage. Then shout that whoever dares to fight on stage. If you don't come, it's a grandson. If the enemy hears, the next day he will be invited to fight. There is a platform for the heroes of the rivers and lakes to resolve contradictions. And don't worry about the common people. It can also let the people of the capital have melons to eat every day. There is a lively look. It also boosted local food and beverage consumption. Xu Qian'an nodded secretly. Dad Wei still has a few brushes. It is an official who can do the right thing. Xu Qian'an looked at second Uncle Su. Asked the second uncle. At present, the heroines in Beijing have no geese singing far away. Second Uncle Su said with a smile. Now there are countless beautiful women in the capital, but there are 4 of the most outstanding. They are in the Luya Sword Pavilion. The Lord's daughter in Zong. Title, Butterfly Sword. Not only is it cultivated to be high, the appearance is also handsome. The capacity of Manhwa building. Nicknamed Ecstasy. I heard from my colleagues. That's a seductive vixen. No man can stop her charm. The other is the female snitch with 1,000 faces. I haven't seen anything I look like, but it is said to be proficient in the art of disguise. Each time he appears as a character dollar. The last one is even more gotta be a famous female swordsman. He is a disciple of the twin sword sect of Lijiao. Second Uncle Su sighed. What a heroic woman. If I were 20 years younger. At this time, Xu Qian'an stared at him deadly. Second Uncle Su's scalp was numb. Hurry up and change my words. I will still choose your aunt. Xu Qian'an nodded, patted him on the shoulder, and said those women. Leave it to your 20-year-old nephew. Xu Qian'an arrived at the yamen. Coping points. I spit it out in the hall of the familiar silver Roman mountain. Practicing for half an hour. And then, I'm going to go on patrol with 2 gongs under my command. Xu Qian'an asked, do you know where the heroines like to hang out? The gong replied that it was naturally a heroic platform. The 4 rings in the south, east, and west are now much more lively. The people of the inner city rush to the outer city to see the excitement. Xu Qian'an made a decision. Then go to Haoxia Terrace in Nanqing today. At this time, a man claiming to be a linen guard barged in. His Royal Highness Lord Xu, please enter the palace as soon as possible. Second Highness said, human lives are at stake. His life and death are in your hands. Xu Qian's face was covered. The head is buzzing. He wanted to find Zhongli first. But before he could speak, Zhongli said first, I know. I'll see you in 4 days. Xu Qian was still a little worried. Will there be an accident on the way back? Zhongli didn't know how to answer. It's just a matter of fate. Xu Qian stretched out his hand. Touch it on his head and give you a light. Be careful on the road. Then he rode his beloved little mare, neck and neck with the guards of the Shoyin Temple, rushed towards the imperial city. Xu Qian rushed into the Shaoyin courtyard in a rampage. He shouted to his highness, "What's wrong with you?" Linen waved his hand. Retreat, guards and maids. Only Xu Qian was left. The watch stared at their departing backs. After being completely out of sight, he instantly pounced on Xu Qian. Then he cried in his arms. The aggrieved cry complained that Huaiqing wanted to kill me. Xu Qian sighed. You're going to the eldest princess to cause trouble again. His Highness Fuji. I went to Princess Huaiqing to do justice again. The table snorted hard. Said the queen with a sniffle. That poisonous woman wants to kill my mother. I'm going to find Huaiqing theory. Unexpectedly, he was also a black-hearted man. And beat me. Xu Qian frowned. And to linen. Hit where you are. The watch rolls up its sleeves. A white and tender lotus root arm is exposed. Jenny had 2 shallow edges on her skin. She used a rattan to whip me Xu Qian a piece of Tianyin Dao. It's just abominable. Your Highness, rest assured. The lowly office will surely administer justice for you. I won't spare that Huaiqing. The table was a little moved. You don't have to do it. Huaiqing is also a princess. Your own words. Will be shot by the forbidden army in the palace. Xu Qian secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you so much. Your Highness, your IQ is still online. Xu Qian said with an attitude of treating death as home. His Highness is missing a hair. It is a great shame for a humble position, even if you are crushed. Also look for the trouble of Huaiqing. The watch nodded slowly, snorted and said, This palace allows you to enter the palace today. That's it. Manga thought about it. At that time, it was clear that he could have resisted. You can pounce on it and scratch Huaiqing's face. But I didn't play well. I thought about it. I must have no good guards by my side. You accompany me to Huaiqing's ivy courtyard again. Xu Qian had the urge to scold her mother. It felt like a stone had been lifted and shot in the foot. Xu Qian cleared his throat. Your Highness is at ease. Tell me what's going on. It is also good to be considerate and considerate. He silently thought about how to slip away quietly. The table will be over the concubine case. The battle that took place in the harem. Tell Xu Qian everything. As expected, the queen hated Chen Guifei very much. It's hard to get around the box. That's when everyone knew. It turns out that there are 18 martial arts in the harem. The queen is more proficient than anyone else. It just didn't work before. Every day at dawn, she asked the concubine to come over and say goodbye. And then I can find fault with myself. Instructed the palace maids under his command to criticize the concubines on their behalf. Make her a harem joke. There is also a series of corporal punishments such as kneeling and palming. Table of Resentment said that the queen is not a femme fatale. Xu Qian sighed twice in his heart. Your mother killed someone's mansion. Of course, the queen wants to fight to the death with your mother. Although Uncle Gua is innocent of death. He frowned and said, Is there anything else? Meow Meow's tears almost fell. Of course, it was just yesterday. The mother was suddenly poisoned. They are all dying. The subordinates of the splendid palace were busy asking for the imperial doctor. But who knew that the imperial doctor was snatched away by the subordinates of Fengqi Palace? Xu Qian was taken aback. What happened then? there is palpitation in the heart. Fortunately, there is a reserve of antidote elixir in the palace of the concubine. This saved his life. Xu Qian'an vomited meaningfully. Poisoning should be the concubine's bitter ploy to frame the queen. The queen, who lost her brother, chose to be tough. So he snatched the doctor. The concubine was helpless. I had to take out the antidote to save myself. He asked His Majesty what His Majesty's reaction was. Yao Biao snorted vigorously, expressed his dissatisfaction. The father didn't say anything. Xu Qian'an guessed. Emperor Yuan Jing should be a clear man. I don't care about it. Just let them make trouble. I can't say I didn't care. At least I don't see any trace of Wei Gong's move for the time being. If it was Emiya who made a move, the concubine may have been cold. Xu Qian'an said tentatively. Why did the queen target her courtiers? Your Highness, you know. The table pretended not to hear. A hint of sadness flashed in his eyes. Xu Qian'an understood. Sigh in my heart. It seems that he knows everything. Xu Qian'an said helplessly. This official is going to beat Huaiqing. Linen directly from. A stick was drawn from under the table. Xu Qian'an was stunned. You're all set. Xu Qian'an hurriedly persuaded His Highness. Calm down. Or let's think about it again. Linen pursed his lips. Aggrieved. I knew it. Your heart is actually toward Huaiqing. Xu Qian'an hurriedly snatched the stick. Just go. In the warm morning sun, the branches spit out new shoots. Huaiqing, who was wearing a plain palace skirt, sat in the gazebo, holding a book in his hand. Xu Qian'an and Linen. Kill the cold eldest princess with great momentum. His Highness was stunned. Look down at the book to yourself. Just order the guards on both sides in a light tone. Miscellaneous people, etc. If it disturbs Yaxing, who is reading books in the palace, lawfully kill on sight. Several guards pressed their knives with one hand. Also greeted it with great momentum. They didn't dare to face Lin Ong. Took the initiative to transfer the hostility to Xu Qian'an. Linen saw that Xu Qian'an was forced to retreat. I was coaxed on the spot. Half of it is without the support of dog minions. He definitely didn't dare to tease Huaiqing alone, so he hid behind Xu Qian'an and scolded Huaiqing. You come out for me. Shameless Huaiqing. Have the ability to come and compete with this palace. It's just that Princess Huaiqing didn't care at all. Read with relish. A quarter of an hour later, the watch took Xu Qian'an and walked away. Xu Qian'an sighed and said forget it. His Highness is too far apart. Xu Qian'an was relieved to think that this was fine. Save me from being a bad person at that time. His Royal Highness Huaiqing is really my intimate little padded jacket. Easily solve the puzzle for me. But it's too much for you to hit Linen. Send Linen back to Shaoying Garden. Play backgammon with him. Tell him a story. It's close to noon. Xu Qian'an said goodbye and left. He was a foreign minister, and Lin is a princess out of the cabinet. You can't mess around for too long. You can't even eat together. Watch wave his hand. I am glad to change the Japanese palace in inviting you into the palace to play. Xu Qian'an walked out of the palace gate, riding a little mare clattering out of the imperial city. The contradiction between the queen and the courtiers. It must be unsolvable. Concubine Chen, a woman, can't fight the queen. It will definitely encourage Linen. Use her as a spear against the queen. According to Huaiqing, girlhood's Linen is even more stupid than she is now. Concubine Chen pointed out. She will hit wherever she wants. If Huaiqing doesn't fight back, he will only be bullied. But once you fight back, Linen will definitely be beaten. And all that. That's exactly what Concubine Chen would like to see. I'm the king of the sea. You shouldn't be led by the nose by a fish. I'm going to figure out a way. The white marble ring in the southern city was built on a square facing the river. There are two quacks fighting in the ring. Since the appearance of the ring, the yamen deregulated. The quacks want to compete. You can go to the yamen to apply for retrieval it. But it had to be returned to the yamen the next day. Otherwise, the whole city is wanted. and some young heroes from famous families. You can rely on the endorsement of the sect to which you belong. No need to cut the blade. But if the murderer is guilty, the sect is held responsible. Xu Qian'an's gaze swept over the audience. I didn't find a more high-quality woman. At this time, Gong explained to Lord Xu. The people who watch the play outside are ordinary people. There's an identity and a status. Are they all in the surrounding tea houses and restaurants? Xu Qian'an glanced at him with satisfaction. The heart says, little brother. Do you know that? He immediately glanced at the surrounding tea houses and wine shops. The observation deck on the second floor is indeed full of visitors. He also saw a particularly beautiful woman. Just took a step. Suddenly, I step on a hard bump on my foot. Look down. It's a purse. Xu Qian'an was stunned. The heart says my money-picking buff. Wasn't it accepted by that bad old man who was superintended? Xu Qian'an picked it up and waited a few times. I found that the portion was quite sufficient. So he smiled and put it in his arms. Then he noticed that a child next to him was watching him. It seems to be annoyed why I didn't see it. The purse was taken first by others. Xu Qian'an wanted to step forward and grab it. What to see? Which family of children? The child was so frightened that he turned and ran away. Xu Qian'an laughed. The heart said that he was so timid. I want to buy you a string of sugar gourds. Entered the 9th floor. I found a table on the 2nd floor. Xu Qian'an has no interest in fighting in the ring. The woman who squinted at the forest table. She wears a pink gauze dress, showing a fair neck, delicate collarbones. The clothes are not thick. Accentuates the towering chest scale. She swallowed. If you are a serious nightclub queen, then this woman is a serious nightclub queen. Xu Qian'an is arrogant and Ganyan Dao is the second. Give a treat to an 82-year-old Lafite short-term official on the opposite table. Xiao'er didn't understand. I was stunned for a moment. Xu Qian'an had no choice but to change his words, and the altar was full of spring. Xiao'er understands now. Walk away, because this is the most expensive wine in the restaurant. That's when it happened. Xu Qian'an saw a woman ascending the stairs. His eyes swept around the hall. Then go straight to your side. Stared at him condescendingly. Give me back your purse. Xu Qian'an looked at him. The woman looked like she was in her 30s. Ordinary stature. The posture is even more mediocre. I've seen a lot of beauties of the same age. For example, Chun Guifei. For example, the Queen. For example, my aunt and my own family. On appearance and figure. Everybody is going to beat this woman. But he has a drive. These beautiful women don't have it. It's that kind of brutal and willful. It's weird. This temperament. It will actually appear in an old aunt. Xu Qian'an calmly took a sip of tea. Lip service does not admit anything. The purse woman looked down at Xu Qian'an. A light green purse with gnashing teeth. There were 20 taels of gold in it. Give me back Xu Qian'an's heartbeat. The surface is still calm. I don't even understand this, aunt. You've lost your purse. What's my business? The woman heard this. Immediately quit. Screamed Annie. Xu Qian'an was also taken aback. What's the reaction? I don't know how old I am. He waved his hand. I didn't pick up your purse. Fuck off. Yelled at each other and yelled at each other. You still don't admit it. I have a witness. I saw a probe at the top of the stairs poking my brain, revealing a child's face. It was he who picked up the purse and threatened me. Xu Qian'an took out a grain of broken silver from his arms. Flick your fingers. Threw it at him. With a smile, you say it again. I didn't hear it clearly. The child smiled. He took the broken silver and ran out. I didn't see anything. I don't know anything. The two gongs laughed insolently. Looked at the mediocre woman playfully. The woman stared at Xu Qian'an and gritted her teeth. I can't wait to pounce on him and bite off a piece of his flesh. But after a while, he sat down suddenly. Pick up the dishes and chopsticks that Xu Qian'an didn't use. As if no one else had eaten. Seems to be really hungry. He looked at Xu Qian'an. Sneered at the adult. Don't you tie up the little girl to the yamen? Xu Qian responded calmly to the ant. Just a few bites of food. I won't hear the word ant. He gritted his teeth a little again. At this time, the sister of the woman. Twisting his waist, he walked over. This, sir. Can a little girl have a few drinks with an adult? Xu Qian hurriedly motioned for the beauty to take a seat. Of course. But here's the problem. All 4 stools are sitting charming. The woman looked left and right. He did not dare to offend the 2 gongs. Then he looked at the woman softly, chuckled at the ant. The ant turned her head away. He drank it disdainfully. Enchanting. It's the first time a woman has treated herself like this. This was so angry that his face turned red. In the past, she was the focus of men's attention wherever she went, the object of envy of the woman. But what does this elderly ant mean? Why at this time? A gong got up very sensibly. The public voice is sir. The lowly patrolled the streets. Sue's wife sighed peacefully, sent a satisfied look. Then he smiled. He made a gesture of please to the beautiful woman. The bewitching woman smiled. He had been observing Sue's wife for a long time. At a young age, he became a prostitute. And the facial features are exquisite. Handsome. It's not that I'm too talented. It is the elders in the family who hold real power. Either way, are all worthy of his intimacy. The bewitching woman is affectionate and has not yet consulted adults. Gao surname. Xu Qian smiled and said that Xu Qian's girl was famous. The bewitching woman also replied affectionately, Rong Rong. Xu Qian touched a glass with him. The heart said that he was walking away from the peach blossom luck. I just heard the second uncle talk about the 4 most iconic women in the capital. I turned my head and came across one of them. He put down his glass. Introducing herself, it turned out to be the ecstasy hand Rong Rong girl. Reacquaint yourself. The Jade King is my uncle. I had a good relationship with my father. My father was an earl. It's a pity that I went early. Failed to qualify for the hereditary network replacement. Got to me. There's only a small realization left. Rong Rong's eyes lit up. No wonder I looked at Lord Su from afar and felt extraordinary. It turned out to be the House of Honorables. For a while, Miss Rong Rong became more and more enthusiastic. The 2 began to tout each other back and forth. Made the ant who was still eating look embarrassed. She snorted coldly and said, I'm full. The purse was returned to me. But Sue's wife and pretended not to hear. Still chatting with Rong Rong hotly. The old woman who was ignored could only snort coldly. Lifting the hem of the skirt, he went downstairs. The only remaining gong sighed that the back was actually not bad. Xu Qian looked at him with disdain. Is the young man lacking maternal love since he was a child? With that, he reached into his arms. I figured out a light green lotus. The package opens and takes a look. Inside was an ingot of yellow gold. Xu Qian tied the tassels of the purse. Throw it gently. Throw the purse out of the building. I still don't care about this ill-gotten gain. Immediately after that, a woman's screams came from downstairs. The purse smashed right on the old ant's head. She covered her head, with a bag of tears in his eyes. While baring his teeth, he grinned. He looked up at the second floor with hatred. Sue's wife kindly reminded her aunt to go home quickly. The old aunt bit her lip, picking up the purse and leaving excitedly. At this time, Rong Rong looked at the ring. He said, as if inquiring and as if he was teaching. Su Gongzi felt that these 2 people would lose and win. Xu Qian did not hesitate. Naturally, it was the young man who made the sword to practice his strength. In the past, the level of strength was based on physique. The men of the 10 mansions do not care about strength or physique, are all above the young man who makes the sword. But why is it at a disadvantage? That young man's swordsmanship is also fancy. Actors, I guess? Rong Rong had never heard of this word. Asked suspiciously, what actors? Xu Qian explained that it was a scene play. Rong Rong suddenly realized, I admire that it is so. Lord Su's eyes were like torches. Xu Qian looked at him secretly. This melt is deep, implicit but not revealing. Not a weak hand. I must have seen through the tricks in the ring, and he's pretending not to understand. Looks like an old driver. At this time, the young man in the ring grabbed a flaw, directly trampled the burly man under his feet. The winner is decided. There was a roar from the audience. Xu Qian was very disgusted by these. Mocking people who don't know where they came from. I want to increase my reputation in the capital. A bad play deliberately played. Wrong girl. Let's go. Let's have 2 more drinks. But right now. Suddenly, there was a roar from the direction of the ring. Xu Qian, a watchman. Get out of the uncle, kowtow, and make amends. Otherwise, uncle will blow up your head today. Xu Qian looked out blankly. He was a little baffled. My heart says, who the hell are you? The onlookers and Edo guests were in an uproar. Actually dared to shout with the officials. This man is so bold. But I look at this person. It seems to be a copper skin and iron bone spirit. The man continued to shout at me with a lot of anger. And Xu Qian, come out and call daddy. Otherwise, Lao Tzu came to the stage every day to shout. Xu Qian pressed the handle of the knife on his waist with one hand. It's really looking for death. The official will go to the meeting for a while. Miss Rong suddenly approached. He tugged at Xu Qian's arm. Why compete with a charlatan? Xu Qian didn't care. Shook his head. I went straight downstairs. Rong couldn't be persuaded when she saw it. Look at the gong that is still leisurely, said this adult. Aren't you going to help? The gong is not suspicious. It's not just a copper skin and iron bone. Something. You don't know how powerful our Lord Xu is. Rong heard this. I was a little confused. Could it be that Xu Qian is also copper-skinned and ironclad? But I didn't see the divine light on his body. Xu Qian walked out of the restaurant. People standing in the way along the way. He took the scabbard and slapped his ass. Roll on and see what is lively. Everyone withdrew from the 10 feet. The young heroes covered their buttocks and complained. Lord Xu, you are also unreasonable. It's not us who are clamoring. What do you hit us for? Xu Qian didn't have a good aura to force again. I'll beat you to death first. After saying that, he jumped into the ring. Thunderbolt with a knife. The man who was a head taller than him asked who you are. The 8-foot-tall man scoffed. He pounced on him and shouted, I'm your father. Xu Qian was very angry. Lunged on. Flick your thumb lightly. Choking. The sound of the blade unsheathed was heard throughout the audience. Then the big man flew out. Sparks and lightning all the way. Make shallow potholes in the surface of the ring. Xu Qian disdainfully said, that's it. Is your master a pit in his head? Send you this kind of goods to give people heads? The crowd around was dead silent. A piece of copper and iron bones can be slashed with a single sword. And if you didn't warn us just now, the light is a burst of knife energy. It would be possible to kill us all. Think about it. Cold sweat oozed from their foreheads one by one. After Xu Qian finished cutting people, immediately tell the gong to go back. Let the doctor take care of the wound. Then bring back the yamen of the watchman. Remember to seal the acupuncture points with Niohao needles. Emaciated camels are bigger than horses. After speaking, he looked in the direction of the restaurant. I found that Miss Rong was missing. Then I realized something, touched into his arms. Only then did I find that the number of fragments was gone. Xu Qian looked back on Fong Kai's experience. That Rong seemed to be leaning on herself. Could it be that he stole it at that time? Entire hours later, the crowd gathered around the ring had almost dispersed. But at this time, 3 men and 1 woman ran up suddenly. A young man said, Look, these small holes. It seems to be sword chi, sharp and small. I've never heard of this kind of swordsmanship. What does Lu Gongzi think? Lu Gongzi, with a good skin, carrying a 7-star sword on his back. Shin Dao may not be sword chi. These holes are unevenly distributed. It's like splashing ink. It seems to be formed when sword chi or sword chi collides with each other. A virtuous man nodded. A few young heroes didn't see it. That knife is incredible. Lu Gongzi asked this uncle suspiciously. Can you elaborate on that? Qian'an said in a dark voice. Just now, there was a copper-skinned and iron-clad martial artist shouting, "Fight and fight more people. Welcome to Luo Xu Qian'an." That Xu Qian'an is just a knife, and he slashed Nwufu to serious injury. It's amazing. Lu Gongzi frowned Xu Qian'an. I've never heard of this person. Suddenly, Qian'an exclaimed, "Isn't this a coincidence? He's right behind you." That's when it happened. They heard the sound of horses' hooves. A young man dressed in a watchman's suit, riding a horse, galloped forward. Then the man leaped into the air. He drew his knife and slashed at them. Lu Gongzi's face changed slightly. In a hurry, he unsheathed the seven-star sword to block. Then a gun rang out. The seven-star sword broke in two. Lu Gongzi was shocked and angry. The magic weapon given by the sect was destroyed like this. He was distressed and could not breathe. Xu Qian'an grinned. You dare to come back. Miss Rong stole her treasure. It's not good to hide. Dare to swagger back. It seems that he has not experienced the beating of society. The officer gives you two choices. Or hand over the baby. Make a concubine for the official. Or hand over the baby. The official will sell you to the workshop division again. Rong was stunned. I stole your baby. This, sir. Are you mistaken? Su Weifan looked at Miss Rong. The hairstyle, dress, and makeup are all exactly the same. It's just that she's right. The officer's patience is limited. Give you 3 breaths of time. Do not hand over the baby. Lu Gongzi's angry mouth was absolutely non-existent. Miss Rong is always with us. Never been here at all. Xu Qian'an frowned. The heart said that I had run into a gang to commit a crime. But judging by their tone and demeanor, it doesn't look like they're lying. It's a pity that the Confucian magic book is also in the fragments of the handing book. Otherwise, directly perform the Qi meditation technique. You can see if they are lying. Su Weifan pondered for a moment. Wait for me to go back to the yamen. Is there a lie? The judge has his own judgment. Lu Gongzi's face changed slightly, and he was joking. Even if you're a watchman, don't try to be guilty of a trumped-up crime. I just want to arrest people in. Your Excellency is really a fish on the chopping board. Miss Rong took a deep breath. Said the sir, since I stole your treasure. Then I will go back to the yamen with you alone. The matter has nothing to do with anyone else. I'll go with you. Good luck to my companions. Miss Rong smiled bitterly. What you should do is, hurry up and inform the elders of the division. Find a way to get me out. The young man just shut up and nodded hard. Nodding, Xu Qian'an saw that he had finished transmitting, patted the horse's back, and came up by himself after chatting. You sit in front. I like to be in the back. Miss Rong hesitated, biting the bright red lip flap. Reluctantly jumped on horseback. Xu Qian'an pulled the reins. Walk away. Miss Rong was lying in her wide and thick chest. He gritted his teeth and whispered, What are you going to do with me? Xu Qian'an said lightly, according to the law of Dafeng. The thief eats $50 to repay the owner. Insolvent. Cutting off the finger is self-defeating. Baby again. Sim plus 3 degrees. Lose 150 chopped fingers. 3 years in prison. Miss Rong's face turned pale. Is this the case for theft in the capital? It's different from what I knew. Xu Qian'an couldn't help but laugh out loud. I just made it up. The beauty in her arms heard this. Relieved. Considers. Xu Qian'an sneered again, but entered the yamen of the watchman. How to punish is not a matter of my words. The suburbs of the beauty tense all at once. With a crying voice, he said, I really didn't steal your baby. The corners of Xu Qian'an's mouth twitched. Suddenly rein in the horse's reins. Let the suburbs crash unguardedly on themselves. Xu Qian'an took the opportunity to touch his soft waist. It's not that he likes to take advantage. I just want to confirm that Uncle D's fragment is not on him. Soon after, the two returned to the yamen of the watchman. Xu Qian'an immediately ordered someone to invite Xu Qian'an. The white clothes came over. Xu Qian'an pointed to the ecstasy hand. Rong asked him if he had stolen anything from me. White garments. The pupils glow blue. After the inquiry, as instructed, shaking his head and saying Su Gongzi. He wasn't lying. Xu Qian'an was stunned for a moment. Instead, he asked if he had ever had a drink with me at the restaurant. It turned out that he was still not lying. Xu Qian'an said something special. What's going on? What the hell am I? After the exasperation, he calmed down and analyzed. It must be Rong who stole my things. It won't be the case of the great god. The biggest problem is the appearance of two Rong. It's hard to be twins. Confused moments. Miss Rong suddenly said, Lord Su, since I am sure that I stole your things. Is that possible? It's another person who looks like me. Xu Qian'an wondered. There really is such a person? Miss Rong pursed her red lips. Since Lord Daoists has heard of my name, I'm no stranger to the thousand-faced snitch. This person is good at disguise. I can't see the flaw at all. Xu Qian'an's face sank. Command your men. Find the information about the female snitch and slash it. After checking the time, Li Yuan came over with a booklet and handed it to Xu Qian'an. There isn't much information about the seven-faced snitch. It is only recorded that the other party is a very powerful thief. Loner. I don't know what the division is. Numerous large and small cases have been committed. Never caught. Xu Qian'an monk booklet. Shun Xingdao is a very professional concubine thief. Why is it easy to look like you? Miss Rong snorted, who knows? Su is jealous of this girl's long-sleeve dancing. Xu Qian'an was speechless. The heart said that these two must have been forced privately, so it was retaliated against. He commanded him to be imprisoned. I can't release people until I agree. It's useless for anyone to come. The sun is moving westward. In another hour it will be banned. Xu Qian'an had to find the female thief before Shaoban. Recapture the Emperor's Shard. Otherwise, I can only go back to the yamen and beg Wei Dad to shrink back and not practice. For now, let's go to Jin Lian and try first. Xu Qian'an arrived here. When there was a knock on the courtyard door, no one answered. He barged in. I found the Golden Lotus Daoist lying with a peaceful face. It's as if you've passed away. He shouted a few long times. I didn't see him wake up. Xu Qian'an only felt a toothache. This old guy must have gotten on the cat again. Why did you suddenly itch into such a quirk? What should I do? Golden Lotus Dao is long as a mature Jianghu front. Generations should know how to protect their bodies. He must have left his hands behind. As long as the flesh is hurt, it should be perceptible. Come to think of it, Xu Qian'an was on Jin Lian's face. A few snaps. The Taoist is coming back to you. There's something urgent. Unfortunately, there was no response. Xu Qian'an, who was helpless, could only shout while pumping. For a moment, all that was left in the room was slapping. It's been a long time. Xu Qian'an heard the Golden Lotus Daoist coming from behind him. A voice that is not mixed with emotion. What are you doing? The orange cat was blown up. The body was even more angry and trembled slightly. The humanized cat's face is as gloomy as water. Xu Qian'an's slap stopped immediately. Pleasantly surprised to look back. Said with an embarrassed smile, You're back. I'm looking for you urgently. But you're not in the hospital. I'm guessing you've got a backhand on the flesh. This is the only way to do it. The orange cat jumped to its feet. Xu Qian'an's face was a blow to the holy fire meow meow fist. Then the voice sounded without emotion. Did you guess that? The moment you enter the yard. I already felt the flame. Meow meow fist is not very powerful. But Xu Qian'an just flew out. After Qi and was beaten. When he was about to encounter a thief with 1,000 faces. How to catch Miss Rong wrongly. told the Golden Lotus Daoist. The orange cat said calmly, handing over the fragments of the book and recognizing the owner. Outsiders can't see the handbook. I can't take out the contents either. You can rest assured. Xu Qian'an asked. Then when I get it from you? It's ownerless. Orange cat explained. Was erased by the hands of the younger sect. Xu Qian'an nodded. He already knew these things. Without further ado, let's go recover the fragments of the handed-in book. The orange cat jumped out of bed, ran out of the house. Xu Qian'an was very puzzled. Why didn't the Taoists go out physically, even if it is a fetish to get on the cat? But now it's time to get down to business. Is it for him? There is no difference between a physical dispatch and a Genshin Impact dispatch. With doubts, under the command of the Golden Lotus Daoist, Xu Qian'an transferred from the northern city to the eastern city. Outside an inn, Daoist Jin Lian said, handing over the fragment of the book which was inside. When he spoke, Xu Qian'an felt it, a feeling of blood being connected, mysterious and mysterious. The location of the fragments of the handing book was clearly sensed. In a room in an inn, wearing heavy makeup, there were big almond eyes. A soft-eyed woman sat at the table. He rested his cheek in one hand. Play with the bathroom path with one hand. I am the only descendant of the Daomen. Have a keen intuition about treasures. This must be an unbeatable treasure. But why can't it be used? With my years of experience in treasure hunting, this should be a magic weapon that drips blood to recognize the Lord. And it comes with a storage function. There must have been a lot of silver tails stored in it. If you can open it, it's Dafa. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. The Rong girl frowned and asked, "Who's there?" A man's voice from outside. "Tia." Rong heard this voice. His face changed dramatically. Didn't think about it. Grab the jade trail and put it in your pocket. Get up and stride to the window. Bang! The window was suddenly opened. Outside, an orange cat was squatting. Amber pupils looked at him leisurely. Miss Rong's brain seems to be embedded in a steel nail. Tears the soul apart. The whole person stood there as if he had lost his soul. Xu Qian'an pushed open the door, pressed the knife with one hand, entering the room with the steps of the 6 relatives who did not recognize him. Got you. A thief with 1,000 faces. The female snitch's smart eyes turned. It seems that they are thinking about countermeasures. What are you talking about, my lord? Xu Qian'an reached out. Grab it gently. Hand out the shards. Flew out of the Rong girl's sleeve. Automatically fell into his hands. Xu Qian'an checked it. Hand out the shards. Confirm that the contents are not missing. Only then did he breathe a sigh of relief. Gold, silver, and silver tickets in the mirror. But he had it all. It's been 2.5 years since I came into this world. The wind comes and the rain goes. I finally saved up my belongings. It's all my wife. Xu Qian'an smiled, looking at the discouraged female non-thief. Don't you quibble. The female thief rolled her eyes, muttered that everyone had stolen money. What is there to quibble? The old lady has been crisscrossing Kyushu for many years. I didn't expect it to be planted in the capital. It is worthy of being the best city in the world. Not wronging Su's wife and is like a cat that catches a mouse. Joke about it. Maybe the uncle will let you go as soon as his heart softens. The female snitch said that if she changes her face, she will change her face. Showing a sad look, he sobbed. The little woman is also a hard worker. At the age of 3, he was sold to the Qinglu by his father. Forced to do it at the age of 10. At the age of 15, he was favored by his master. Accepted as a close disciple. I thought that the hard days had finally come to an end. Who knew that the master was also a beast with a human face? On a dark and windy night, his Su acting skills are too realistic. Su wife and also can't judge the truth or falsehood. All right. I sympathize with what happened to you. But the law is unforgiving. I have a few questions for you. Answer honestly. How do you do it without knowing it? Stealing my babies. The snitch said, This is the little woman's housekeeping skills. Under the 4 grades, I can steal as much as I want. Xu Qian'an leaned over and pinched her chin. And how that is disguised. Not a human skin mask. But this face is certainly not yours. The snitch explained. This is the unique secret technique of our Dao men. It's called the art of hiding from the sky and crossing the sea. It's a real change in appearance. Unusual transfiguration can be compared. Daoist Jean Lian interrupted suddenly, staring at the female snitch with a gloomy face. Wait, what you just said? What kind of sect are you? A female snitch who suddenly felt a fierce, murderous machine said weakly. Dao Gate, Golden Lotus Dao leader looked at Xu Qian'an. Said coldly, this female snitch will be cut. Xu Qian'an couldn't help but keep raising the corners of his mouth. This is the worst time that the Dao man has been hacked. Xu Qian'an introduced seriously. Xiao Dao, do you know who this person is? This is the big man of the Daoist sect. The female snitch has a strong desire to survive. Immediately bow down. After speaking, my Dao Gate was changed to the Thief Gate. Xu Qian'an was stunned for a moment, seeing that the Golden Lotus Daoist stopped talking, continuing with the topic of Feng Kai. Hand over the cheats. The pitiful expression of the female snitch. This is Tong Zigong. I have been practicing since childhood. The master teaches hand in hand. There are no cheats. I've been practicing since I was 4 years old. It took more than 10 years of practice before becoming a teacher. Xu Qian'an didn't have a good airway. Didn't you just say that you entered the Qing Lu at the age of 3? Pick up from 10 years old. Is it the exclusive RBQ that became a master at the age of 15? The female snitch smiled awkwardly. Is there such a thing? Lord Xu misheard. Xu Qian'an didn't want to listen to his nonsense anymore. The cheats of the transfiguration are handed over. The female snitch nodded in resignation and cheats in the closet. I'm going to get it. He got up and took out a bag from the closet. The contents are tightly wrapped. It looks like that. The female non-thief put the burden on the table. Speaking of cheats, it's inside. Xu Qian'an took the burden. Can't wait to take it apart. But at the moment of opening, a puff of green mist erupted. Caught off guard, he and the Golden Lotus Dao elder both took a few sips. Immediately passed out. The female snitch laughed a few times. Hum chirped and fought with my aunt and grandmother. You're not far from it. And yet at this very moment, behind him, Xu Qian's voice suddenly sounded. Sure enough, let's kill it. All reminded you. This is the big boss of the Dao sect. You don't even know when you're in the illusion. Xu Qian'an looked him up and down. Said with a smile that the ass is quite warped. What is your name? The female snitch completely resigned herself to her fate. A few wry laughs. Said Gu Xiaojin. Not surprisingly, Xu Qian'an sealed the female snitch. Gu Xiaojin's blood. Bring back the yamen of the watchman. Eat and live. The next day, Xu Qian'an rode a horse to the Dechongranya. The old friend of the door, Li Yuan, was waiting at the door. Lord Xu has a group of people from the rivers and lakes who come to Yamen. Xu Qian'an, an acquaintance, met someone in Chunfeng Hall. He was the first to ask, which of you is Miss Rongrong's master? The middle-aged, beautiful woman was rude and said that the old body was Xu Qian'an. The official has found out the reason. It wasn't Miss Rongrong who stole the official's magic weapon. It's the thousand-faced female thief, Gu Xiaojin. Now the culprit has been arrested. Miss Rongrong, can you take it with you? The beautiful woman was overjoyed at the moment. Yesterday, I heard that Rongrong was arrested. They dredged up the relationship overnight. Let it go, but when the people in the capital heard it, it was Xu Qian'an who caught it. All mean powerlessness. Between words, Miss Rongrong entered the side hall under the leadership of Li Yuan. He was emotionally stable. Shouted out to the master in surprise. Ji Mei cried with joy. Didn't cry, make trouble, or hang himself. The middle-aged beauty saw it in her eyes. Quietly said that it was okay. This lord knows everything. You have not been wronged. The middle-aged swordsman coughed. A stack of silver tickets slipped out of his sleeve. Then we won't stay longer. Su Wifan said lightly. I, Su, am not that kind of person. Actually, she wasn't too embarrassed to ask for it. After all, ecstasy guarding Long Rong neither made trouble nor cheated. It was a pure misunderstanding. Come to think of it, he took out another letter from his bosom and handed it to Lu Gongzi. Said that the official does not like to owe people something. Yesterday, I beheaded your boy with a magic weapon. You take this IOU and go to see Tianjin to find Song Qin. He will compensate the official for a magic weapon. Lu Gongzi was overjoyed. He meant to refuse, but I heard the words, "for heavenly sword." He couldn't pull his face down. The group left the yamen. Mrs. May held Rong Rong's hand and did not speak. It was Lu Gongzi who took the lead in returning to his position. Some worried temptation, Dao Rong Rong. Did he bully you last night? The middle-aged swordsman scolded. What nonsense! He sighed inwardly. Was caught on the ground by the beater. It's definitely not surprising that you're wet. But the matter must not be mentioned, although it is said that it is a son and daughter of the rivers and lakes. But the name is just as important. Rong Rong shook her head and explained that he didn't do anything to me. I stayed alone in the watchman's room. It's just that the quilt is a little ugly. Mrs. May Hui didn't bully you. Then what will he do to arrest you? Rong Rong said that Lord Su's baby. It was indeed stolen. It was Gu Xiaojing who stole his treasure. And the reason why he arrested me to the yamen. It's because Gu Xiaojing is disguised as me to commit crimes. That's where this misunderstanding came about. The middle-aged swordsman said Gu Xiaojing with thick eyebrows. And why do you want to be like you? Rong Rong said hatefully the day before yesterday. I was drinking with Brother Lu and others in the restaurant. One said a few words about him by name. It is the ninth stream of the rivers and lakes, specializing in roosters and dogs. How can you be worthy to be called with me? Presumably those words reached his ears. And he shall be made in my likeness. Type of theft. Take the opportunity to retaliate. Lu Gongzi nodded and said that there was such a thing. The middle-aged swordsman breathed a sigh of relief. Humpier turned out to be a misunderstanding. It's okay now. I just have nothing to do. Let's go to the Four Heavens Sword. I also took the children to see the tallest building in Dafeng. Li Qian held a yellowed, ancient book in his hand. Kept snickering in my heart. This female snitch is a talent. Leave him behind first. It will definitely be useful in the future. Steal my magic weapon. I'm going to get your wool. In the future, I will drive you to be a cow and a horse. Of course, I'll let you graze. Si tionyones sida. Ecstasy keeps the countenance. The group arrived at the plaza below the stargazing tower. Once again, I was shocked by the tallest building in Dafeng. Lu Gongzi swallowed his saliva quietly. Ask Master Dao. Are we really going to go in? The middle-aged swordsman shook his head and said, This heavenly sword is no easier than the Aoki court. You are waiting outside. For the teacher, one person goes in, but don't do too much about the magic weapon. Looking forward to finishing. Mentally added, although the beater gave a letter. Let me do the Four Heavenly Sword. But it's just a lewdness. There is really the face to let these white-clothed warlocks give magic weapons. To be honest, I don't believe it. If you were really teased by him, it doesn't hurt if you don't make a fool of yourself in front of the apprentices. The beautiful woman explained, looking at his back. Do you know why your master said that? That Song Qing is the personal disciple of the supervisor. The status in Dafeng Jianghu is not inferior to that of the emperor's prince. Do you understand? A middle-aged swordsman ascends the steps built of white marble. Go to the first floor. A white-clad warlock greeted him. Who are you? The middle-aged swordsman hurriedly lowered his head and clenched his fists. Respectfully, Yang Yuchuan in the next meeting of the weekend pavilion. He was really stunned. Haven't heard of it. Just tell me what's going on. The middle-aged swordsman took out the letter. Humble offering. I want to see Song Qing. This is the Lantern Man's yamen. It was given to me by a man surnamed Su. The white-clad warlock took the note. Expand and take a look. His expression was immediately extremely serious. Drop a sentence and wait a minute. I hurried upstairs. The middle-aged swordsman was stunned. The other party's reaction was beyond his expectations. But soon, the white-clad warlock, who had just gone upstairs, returned, throwing a mediocre-looking sword at him. There are no flashy spikes, scabbard and hilt. There is no inlay with gold leaf and jade pendants. The middle-aged swordsman didn't have time to look at the sword. Silently withdrew in his arms. For heavenly sword. Rong Rong saw the middle-aged swordsman holding a sword in his arms. Surprised, there are really magic weapons. Lu Gongzi's gaze. Always stop at the rustic-looking sword. Asked eagerly. Master, take a look at the quality of this magic weapon. The middle-aged swordsman holds the hilt of his sword. Pull it out slowly. A red and bright sword light came into everyone's eyes. Let them subconsciously close their eyes. The middle-aged swordsman's hands trembled with excitement. The sword chi is self-generated. It turned out to be a sword chi that was self-generated. The best magic weapon, even if it's the autumn water cold of our brother Mo's head. It is also far from being comparable to this sword. Bang bang. Lu Gongzi heard his own violent heartbeat. The sword chi is self-generated. On the rivers and lakes. This is a first-class ritual weapon. That Xu Qian'an gave me such a strong sword. He couldn't help but reach out and grab it. Master, show me. Show me. The middle-aged swordsman slapped him away. It's all instinctive. It was as if the sword was his wife. Outsiders are not allowed to blaspheme. Lu Gongzi said aggrievedly. Master, why did you hit me? Isn't this a magic weapon that was paid to me? The middle-aged swordsman said earnestly. This sword is a first-class magic weapon. The so-called puff is not guilty. Guilty of guilt. That's not good for you. The division has just made a difficult decision. For the time being, this sword will be kept by the master. Let the teacher take the risk. Wait for your cultivation to be completed, and return the sword to you. Okay, but the teacher has made up his mind. You don't have to say any more. To compensate you, of course, I will hand over this beloved sword to you. This sword accompanied the teacher for 20 years. It's like a teacher's wife. You have to cherish her. Miss Rong Rong muttered. What is the identity of Su Gongzi? In the tea room on the 7th floor of the Yamen side of the watchman. Wei Yuan stood at the desk. He said without raising his head. Have you offended anyone lately? Xu Qian'an mentioned. There is nothing that will not offend anyone after you. I can't count the number of enemies. For the injustice of a lifetime, there is this realization. In the future, the achievements will not be low. The 5 pins you brought back yesterday. I was taken away this morning. Take again. Have you offended anyone? Xu Qian'an said helplessly. I just can't remember. That's why I brought that guy back. Why did you put it again? Wei Yuan didn't speak. The tip of the pen is slowly outlined on the paper. Finally put down the pen. The long book was drawn in one go. Xu Qian'an hurriedly stepped up. What Wei Gong painted. The picture scroll is a beauty in overalls. Dressed in a gorgeous dress. Wore a lot of jewelry. The slender jade hand pinched a small light luo fan. Xu Qian'an boldly asked, This sister is so beautiful. There may be a match. Does the rich Wei Gong know? I haven't married a wife yet. Wei Yuan shook his head regretfully. No one in the world can paint her beauty. Neither can I. The corners of Xu Qian's mouth twitched. The heart says, look at it. What are you talking about? The spring list is also known as the apricot list, because this is the flowering period of apricot blossoms. February 27th, this year's spring list is particularly lively. There are not only thousands of eagerly awaited scholars. It also caught up with the battle between heaven and man in the Daomen. A large number of people from the rivers and lakes flocked to the city. Lu Gongzi proposed, Master, why don't we jump off the roof and see? The middle-aged swordsman didn't have a good airway. You want to be slashed by a beater, or was pierced by the sword for 10,000 arrows. A sedan chair was parked in a vacant lot near the tribute temple. A pleasant and gentle woman's voice came from the sedan chair. And how much longer? The maid named Chunner, who put the horse on her tiptoes, glanced at Miss Hitani in the distance. 2/4 of an hour to go. The girl in the sedan chair. She is the daughter of Wang Wenjin, the capital of the dynasty. She said coquettishly, and she didn't know who this year's members were. At this time, Chunner suddenly couldn't help but praise. What a handsome scholar. Miss Wang lifted the curtain. A gap peeks out. She soon knew who the handsome scholar the maid was talking about, because the man was so glorious. Even if he was pushed by the crowd and frowned, can't hide her handsomeness at all. The eyebrows are delicate and slender. The eyes are as bright as the stars. Red lips and white teeth. Fair skin. The skin is more delicate and beautiful than most women. Even if it's a woman like Miss Wang, who thinks of herself as beautiful, I can't help but be amazed. The aunt is under the protection of a group of guards, not pushed and crowded by the crowd. But she regretted it a little. Join in the fun. Su Erlang said helplessly, today, the eldest brother and father have to inspect. We have to compete with the people in the rivers and lakes for position. The list will be unveiled later. Naturally, there will be people singing the charts. We're here to listen. Over time, it's finally time to unveil the list. The first thing to unveil is the sublist. A single sublist. It made the students excited. The examiner who advocated the party announced that Yang Zhen was the 460th. Guozijian students. Número 459 Barber Codex. A native of Hushui County, Qingzhou. As one name after another was pronounced. Someone cheered. Someone suffers. It showed a vivid appearance to the people present. Annie is a little anxious. Why haven't I heard your name yet? Su Lingyue comforted Dao Yang. It's only about 100. Didn't you say that the second brother is a member? Over time, I have already read to the 50th place. There is still no Aunt Su New Year, and she is more anxious. The brows are tightly locked. It's not you yet. Su Erlang also frowned. Chun Xingdao waited. Wait for the top 10 on the chart. The aunt's face turned pale. I feel that my son is going to fall off the list 9 times out of 10. Finally, when the song sounded, Jingke member Su Xingyan, students of Yunlu Academy. Su Xingyan, a native of Beijing, thundered in his ears. It's like a scorched thunderbolt exploding. His whole body trembled. This scorching thunder also exploded in the ears of thousands of students. The first thought that comes to their mind is impossible. The Confucian orthodoxy debate lasted for 200 years. The students of Yunlu Academy were suppressed in officialdom. In this context, member, how could it be a student of Yunlu Academy? From time to time, the crowd asked who Su Xingyan was. Who is Master Su Xingyan? It was as if someone had immobilized her, hungry on the spot. But Sister Lingyue was the first to react. Hurriedly woke up the stunned second brother. Su Erlang raised his hand in a daze and said, "It's me. I'm Su Xingyan." The voice fell. The long sea of people gathered towards Su Xingyan. Su Huiyuan. There could be a marriage. The official has a daughter in his family, 28 years old. I am willing to marry my son. There are also unmarried daughters in the official's family. He is proficient in piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting. Chunna stood on her feet and watched for a moment. It's really interesting to tie up Zhu Su with Shi Zizido. The young lady didn't expect the member to be that handsome scholar. The voice fell. The curtains were lowered suddenly. Miss Wang's sweet voice came from the frame. Let's go back. Su Qingqing, who had never seen such a battle, frowned. He was about to spit out the fragrance and retreat from this group of uninteresting things. Suddenly, he saw several people from the rivers and lakes. Ill-intentioned people poured up, crashed into the protective wall formed by the retaining bush, intended to take advantage of his mother and sister. Su Erlang yelled and stopped. But it didn't work. He simply couldn't stop so many people. Not to mention, there are also a bunch of rich men who have tied up their sons-in-law around the table. Xu Qian'an, what do you think? You and the official's daughter are talented and beautiful. It's a match made in heaven. Suddenly, a deafening sound exploded. Stop, Xu Qian shouted in a deep voice. Take those troublemakers away. The rest stepped back. Members are 10 feet away. The voice fell. A few gongs around the area immediately went up to get people. Took out a few Jianghu people one by one. The moment Erlang saw Xu Qian, I breathed a sigh of relief. It seems to have something to rely on. Some students from other places who entered Beijing to take the exam were puzzled. Who is this brother? So flamboyant. I look like I'm just a martial artist. A student explained to him. That. It is Xu Qian who writes the dark fragrance floating moon dusk. Hear this. The student's eyes lit up all of a sudden. It turned out to be him. Sure enough, a talent. The aura is extraordinary. When the dragon and phoenix are in real people, it is desirable to look at it. Many students in Beijing were pleasantly surprised. Say hello. Shouted that he had seen Xu Shirkuei. Lin Yu, who would only feel sorry for her brother, muttered to her eldest brother. It's majestic. Xu Qian'an muttered to himself, it's clear that I'm the protagonist. Xu Qian'an not only won the consensus, it is also a member of the Consensus Head League. This is something that the whole family did not expect. After lunch, Su Erlang looked at Xu Qian. Asked Big Brother, do you still have to patrol the streets today? Xu Qian shook his head. Silver patrols are not mandatory. It depends on whether the mood goes or not. Su Erlang folded his hands behind his back. Said lightly, then the Big Brother will work harder. Help me guard the door. There must be annoying flies in the afternoon. I don't see any. The corners of Xu Qian's mouth twitched. This little brother is still pretending. This silver luo really has 1,000 opportunities. How can I have time to give you a mere member to watch the door? He waved his hand and walked out. I still have something. I don't have that much to do with you. Xu Qian returned to the room. Worry about Su Erlang's piety. Jiro won the membership. This is something I didn't expect. And then there's a TV a month later. After the TV, I've buried my backhand and it's ready to go. Staying in the capital is only the first step. If I want Jiro to be a useful person for me, then you'll have to find him a backer. Otherwise, with his identity as a student of Yunlu Academy, I will be mixed in the Qingshui Yamen for the rest of my life. Duke Wei is now not the left governor of the inspectorate. I didn't know such an important location. Can you get it back? However, Erlang couldn't take refuge in Wei Yuan. Can't have anything to do with him. Otherwise, I will be branded as drowning like me. Eggs cannot be placed in one basket. I had to find a way to get him a backer. In this way, there is hope for our brothers to combine their swords in the future. Dominate the court. Princess Huiqing is a female streamer. I suspect he has a secret cult on his back. But what Jiro wants is a solid backer. Instead of being an underground party. The words of the prince. Unless the Dark Queen breaks with concubine Qin's mother-in-law. So the prince didn't think about it. And the prince's rank is too low. Don't go to my house. For the same reason, the 4 princes also passed. Xu Qian went through it in his mind. He found the civilian bureaucratic group. I couldn't find a suitable backer. Forget it, there's no hurry. The next thing I want to be wary of is the emissaries of Buddhism, and the dispute between heaven and man between Li Miaojin and Chu Yuanjin. And for me, the most important thing is to promote as soon as possible. That's it. Wu Shan Zhong left. Xu Qian asked, it's great that you're okay. Yesterday was dangerous. Zhongli politely replied, thank you for your concern. A total of 36 crises were encountered yesterday. 20 mini-crises, 10 major crises, and 6 life and death crises. But I survived. Xu Qian looked at him deeply. This is the usual tone. It's inexplicably distressing. Xu Qian smiled and said, Senior Sister Zhong. How do you write it? Little brother wants to bother you with one thing. Generally speaking, as long as Xu Qian'an doesn't offer to sleep with me tonight, or ask me to have a son or something, Zhongli will fulfill Xu Qian'an's wishes. Of course, if you insist on Zhongli, you and this kid kiss like this. As long as Xu Qian'an's posture is not too difficult, Zhongli was able to fulfill his wishes. Xu Qian'an pondered for a while, said, "Help me write this book. The name is The Great Sage. It's the love of love. Senior sister Zhong, don't make a mistake." Zhongli muttered a strange name. Xu Wifen ignored it, talking to oneself. Sunny Day Sage. It tells a love story that takes place in the heavenly court. The heroine is the daughter of the Emperor of Heaven. It's called the Zixia Fairy. The male protagonist is a guard in the heavenly palace. It's the identity of the demon clan. His name is Long Out Yin. The demon clan is the most humble existence in the heavenly court. Discriminated against by the immortals, can only act as coolies or guards. His hobby is singing and dancing. Zhongli suddenly said that there was a problem here. Long Out Yin's name is guilty. The taboo is based on the background of the heavenly court in the book. There should be no such name. Xu Qian'an thought for a moment. I can only say that we don't have to care about these details. The story continues. But it is these two men and women whose identities are so different. They unexpectedly fell in love. One is Lang Yuan Xianbao. One is the beauty of the jade flawless. Zhongli paused. A frown interrupted. Wait, Lang Yuan immortal refers to the Zixia Fairy. That beautiful jade is flawless, and it is Long Out Yin. But he's a lowly demon clan. In terms of origin, is not worthy of the words beautiful jade and flawless. I think it needs to be changed. Xu Qian'an was angry. You are the incarnation of the bar spirit. You're teaching me how to write a book. Zhongli sensed that the amulet's mood was wrong. What is lost no longer speaks. The story continues. The two have a tryst in the heavenly palace. Watch the sunset clouds from holding small hands. To hug and kiss. Then roll the sheets in the secret room. This series of experiences, Xu Qian'an said in great detail. From start to finish. The details are well described. In this day and age, similar forbidden books are described in detail. It's even accompanied by verses. Suan can copy poems, but it is impossible to write poetry on your own. So there is no class to get an axe. Suddenly, Xu Qian'an's voice became tactful. But the love between Zixia Fairy and Long Out Yin, by a priest who covets the beauty of the Zixia Fairy, found out and denounced the two. The Emperor of Heaven was furious. Peel the skin and extract the bones of Long Out Yin. Break into reincarnation. Generations as animals. And the Purple Fairy was also imprisoned in the Guanghan Palace for eternity. Companion with the cold. Dependent on loneliness. Xu Qian'an cleared his throat. Asked how many words. Zhong's centrifugal counts for a moment, about 80,000 words. Xu Qian'an was secretly speechless, worthy of being a 5th-grade warlock. I wrote 80,000 words with a brush in 2 hours. He was able to write it almost immediately after I dictated it. It feels faster than the current keyboard warriors. It would be nice if I met Zhongli half a year earlier. I said he wrote that he was my speech recognition system. I could open a bookstore, buy a picture book for a living. Xu Qian'an vetoed the idea. This story can be like this first. I'll think about the second half. Let's move on to the next one. The second book is written about a demon princess. A love story with a Terran scholar. Xu Qian'an directly applied the routine of the domineering president in his previous life. It's just a reversal of the roles of men and women. The female monarch is domineering and tough, wise and ruthless. The scholars of the Protoss are full of wealth, but kind and gentle. Urbane, domineering female president versus silly white sweet scholar. No doubt. This book was written for Huiqing, a book for Lin. The male and female protagonists are the princess of the heavenly court and the little guard. Xu Qian'an's intentions are sinister. is misleading Lin An's view of love and values. When he indulges, in my heart, I will make up a handsome and dashing person. Outstanding ability. A guard-type character who speaks and is interesting. Lin will find out. Isn't that what my dog slave is? It turns out that the true destiny is by my side. As for Huiqing, she's a tough bone to gnaw. Intelligent, calm, and assertive. Such a woman is difficult to guide. And in this world where men are inferior to women, it's almost impossible to see a domineering lady fall in love with me like this. But I believe this will inevitably arouse Princess Huiqing's desire to read. Su's wife washed her face and went out. Ride a little mare. 2 novels that came out of Zhongli horse with him. Hurry up and enter the imperial city. Su's wife and asked how His Highness is doing recently. Linen sighed, and the mother cried to me every day. Said that he was bullied by the queen in the harem. I can't live anymore, but I can't fight Huiqing. And I don't think the mother is as miserable as he said. When the prince's brother was imprisoned in Dali Temple, I went to beg my father, but my father didn't see me. I stood in the cold for 2 hours. It was still when Huiqing drove me back. I just thought, maybe my father didn't love me that much. After the birth of the prince's brother, my brothers and sisters stopped playing with me. I just knew. It turns out that they don't really like me either. Xu Qian'an knows. This is the explosion of His Royal Highness Lin An's trust in him. That's why it's in front of him. Unload the princess's pride to show it. These things must have been held in his heart for a long time. This princess has a delicate and willful appearance. In fact, it is a paper tiger with a fierce appearance. If you are wronged, you will only shout. And the grievances that really pierce the heart. And he endured it in silence. Xu Qian'an pressed a hand on his head. Rub it gently. Your Highness, anytime and anywhere. I'll be with you. Xu Qian's mood gradually fell when he saw it. The demon sent his hand to his head. I also rubbed it lightly a few times. Lin An's face turned red a little. Looks like an angry little wife. The next moment, he hurriedly slapped Xu Qian's hand away. Warning, don't touch my head. I'll be angry. Xu Qian smiled. The heart says to deal with girls of this character. Appropriate domineering as well as stalking. It's the best way. Replaced with Huiqing. I may have been stabbed to death with a sword. Xu Qian withdrew his hand in time. From his bosom, he took out the picture book of the great sage. Put it in front of Linen. Laughing, this is a book that I occasionally get from a humble position. It's interesting. The princess likes to listen to stories, and she will love to read them. But don't say I sent it. Lin An's attention was immediately attracted by the great sage. Although it is not the first time that I have received a gift from a dog minion. But this is the first time this kind of chic. Xu Qian continued. If you feel bored staying in the palace, you might as well move to Linen. In this way, the lowly can play with you every day. I can also sneak you outside. After chatting for a few words, he took his leave. Linen stopped him. The accomplice puffed out his cheeks and threatened Xu. Qian's events today are not allowed to be passed on. Otherwise. He wants to say that if you don't, I'll cut off your head. But it's a little reluctant. Xu Qian naturally knew what he meant. After answering a sentence, he left. Xu Qian had just left Showing Garden. A stick of incense is less than enough. He came to Dashing Garden, where Princess Huiqing lived. Enter the Grace Garden. I met the beautiful eldest princess. His Royal Highness Huiqing's voice was cold and pleasant. Lord Xu is looking for this palace for something. Xu's wife asked sincerely. I became a member of my lowly cousin, but he was born in the Road Academy. Humble worries about his future. I don't know if His Highness has any good plans. Huiqing's eyes flashed. Took a sip of tea. He immediately understood what Xu Qian meant. This is not to let fourth Uncle Xu be branded as drowning. Huiqing smiled. Said you have been to Qinzhou. How much is known there? Xu Qian thought for a while. Answer, determined to be clear. Xiang lay people govern Qinzhou in an orderly manner. Speaking of which, Xu Qian'an suddenly understood what Huaiqing meant. Qinzhou is now a hall of words for Xiang monks. He is in Qinzhou. If the students of Yunlu Academy go to Qinzhou to work, you can definitely make a big difference. Not to be suppressed. The eldest princess didn't sell it. Said Qinzhou. It is Yunlu Academy, a pure land for Confucian students. Xu Qian'an let out a breath. The heart said that I am such a single brother for generations. I can't bear to let him go to Qinzhou. Thousands of miles away from each other's worries. Forget it, let Erlang stay in the capital first. I'll figure it out later. Maybe he can find a backer on his own. Xu Qian's poor bottom line. By the way, I don't know if His Highness is interested in the dialogue. Huaiqing shook his head. Hanga never looked at those things. Princess Huaiqing's arrogant tone. It's like a female doctor talking about online articles. I never look at that kind of thing. Xu Qian'an took out the domineering female monarch from his arms and fell in love with me. Put it on the table. Said that it is good to find a good book. His Royal Highness has nothing to do. You can take a look. As he spoke, he hurried out. Don't forget to patch yourself yet. The affairs of the Yamen are busy. He resigned first. By the way, you must help the lowly to save their lives. Huaiqing didn't even look at it. It's just ceremonial. After Han Shou sent away Su's wife, he should have ordered the palace maid to put away the book and dispose of it herself. When your gaze sweeps over the cover, his eyes suddenly burned. The domineering lady fell in love with me. The female monarch turned out to be such a rebellious title. Huaiqing suddenly became interested. I just have nothing to do. It doesn't hurt to take a few looks. So she sat down again. Open this book with a great contrarian name. The story is about a scholar who strayed into the demon world. He's brilliant, an encyclopedic mind. But the inhabitants of the demon world want to eat. The scholar set up the oil pan and prepared to fry him. At this time, the female monarch appeared. Nujuan is the only person in the demon world who reads. Possess a high level of intelligence and culture. He saved the scholar. Keep him in his harem. The two chanted poems against each other. Talk about the past and the present. In the process, the female monarch fully demonstrated her domineering, ruthless style. But he cared about the scholar very much. I just don't know how to behave. My favorite mantra is man. You're playing with fire. Huaiqing had never seen such an interesting book. He doesn't have any depth to speak of. I can't learn anything. And those obscure ancient books that he loves to read. It's like the difference between cloud and mud. I don't know why. It's just some trivial things in life. Boring conversations. But it seems to have a special magic. Huaiqing couldn't help but want to see it. The female monarch narrowly won in front of all kinds of people. Yes, it is a narrow victory in front of people. Trample the man under his feet. Raise men in the harem. Treat men with a domineering and cold attitude. But even so, a ruthless woman. There is also tenderness in the heart. And the scholar was obedient to the female monarch. Think of him everywhere. It will also be because of the female monarch and the generals of the demon realm who drink. And angry and jealous. Unconsciously, he watched it for more than 2 hours. Huaiqing also discovered one of the advantages of this picture book. He doesn't need to use his brain. It's cool. After the coolness, Huaiqing suddenly swelled with anger. What did I do? Such a book with no nutrition and no knowledge. I watched it for 2 hours. What is the difference between this and wasting life? How can you put time and energy wasted on this non-nutritious stuff? He felt a deep sense of guilt about it. Huaiqing disdainfully threw the book aside. Get up and leave the living room. The heart said that this was just an idle book. Available in a few minutes. He couldn't help but turn back again. There's also a thief looking left and right. No one was found. He quietly hid the book in his sleeve and took it away. By no means to look back at it at night when you go to bed. It's that the book can't be seen by anyone else. It's like those secret books in the boudoir. At the same time, the Xu Qian'an temple. Lin Anshan couldn't extricate himself in the great sage. It turns out that men love women love each other like this. Shame on the dog minions. How can you show this kind of thing to Hongdu? He read it word for word. By the way, the brain made up the picture. But when he saw Long Outyin being skinned and whipped into reincarnation, warriors are everywhere. And the Zhixiao fairy was imprisoned forever in the Guanghan palace. Suddenly gone, Linen scolded a few words of go slave indignantly. The queen beckoned the maid to prepare hot water. She's going to bathe. The palace maid was almost a knife. It's time to eat. This point, the bath table suddenly became angry and asked you to go. Soon the hot water boiled. The palace maid served. Linen bathing, her white hole was soaked in water. A pair of delicate collarbones in the sleek, skinny bath are exposed. Linen suddenly asked, you said, among the guards beside me, which is the most handsome, the most talented, the most interesting, the most loyal to the main palace? The palace maids who served answered that they were quite loyal. As for the fun and talent, the slave doesn't know. If it's not for the guards, though, the slave and maid have a choice in their hearts. Biao Biao's eyes lit up. Immediately asked who it was. The palace maid replied, it's Lord Su. Lord Su looks handsome, talented and funny. Always amuse your highness. He's not a guard, though, but it's your henchman. And not a reader, it's a watchman, barely a guard. Linen bit his lip. He saw the rippling water, blurred reflection of his face. Delicate appearance. The face is red. Seems a little shy. He kept asking himself in his heart, is it really that dog minion? This side of the royal palace of the imperial city. In the study of Wang Jinwen in the capital, Miss Wang came in with a bowl of wolfberry ginseng soup. Daddy drinks tea, but he just finished speaking. The one on the table is a play. Kanetaru's Sake Bucket 10,000. The jade plate is shy and straightforward. Stop cupping and throwing spoons and can't eat. Draw your sword and look around, dazed. I want to cross the yellow river and ice plug the river. We'll climb the mountain full of snow. Idle fishing on Bishi. Suddenly, I dreamed of the sun by boat. It's hard to walk. The divergent path is now safe. There will be times when the wind and waves will be long. Straight to the clouds and sails into the sea. Miss Wang couldn't take her eyes off for a long time. Muttered Daddy, you've written a masterpiece that will last a lifetime. Your poem came out. It must have been shocked. Wang Shofu picked up the ginseng tea. Take a sip. A soothing breath. I didn't write that. It was written by the new member. Didn't you go to the tribute temple today? I didn't see it, and it was said to be a talent. It's a rare, beautiful man. Miss Wang denied it. My daughter didn't see it. The daughter is just making fun. Wang Shofu smiled heartily. At that time, the poems were put back on the imperial examination. It took a lot of effort to be a father. There's a lot of resistance, and now there is such a masterpiece. Raised eyebrows for my father. It is also worthy of the world's readers. Worthy of the ancestors. Did not let the treasure of poetry completely decline. Miss Wang said casually. Dao heard that the member is a student of Yunlu Academy. Wang Shofu pondered for a moment, sighed, and said that it was a pity. Miss Wang also said that her daughter wanted to hold a cultural meeting at the house. A famous prince in Beijing is invited to participate. Can be called in your name. The initiators of the Wenhui must be highly respected. Miss Wang is not qualified. However, he held many meetings in the house. They were all convened in the name of the king's house. Wang Shofu looked at him deeply. There are also inexplicably more things in the eyes. But he didn't object. After all, spring is Congo. It also makes sense to hold a cultural meeting. Yunlu Academy in Qingyun Mountain. The horses stopped at the foot of the mountain. Students dressed in Russian jumped off their horses. A list in his hand, rushed to the top of the mountain. Good news. Zhang Xinchen said that people who read should have calmness. Neither great joy nor sorrow can shake the mind. I see you want to come. This group of students who participated in the spring why all worked together. The students who reported the news shouted excitedly, "Mr. is more than a Chinese collaborator." Xu Qian'an won the membership. Zhang Shun thought he had misheard. Chun Xingdao member. The reporter nodded vigorously. This is the list of college students nominated by the letter list. Uncle Xu Qian'an is indeed a member. Zhang Shun excitedly snatched the list. It reads, the names of the students who participated in Chunwei this time, as well as rankings. At the forefront is Uncle Xu Qian'an. First member. Zhang Shun looked at the list for a long time. Suddenly, I got up in my throat. Dean Chun Tai Li Mubai. I'm a member of my student rank. Soon, Zhao Shou and the two great Confucians in the courtyard were alarmed. Ignoring distance with bragging, appeared outside Zhang Shun's bookstore. Li Mubai frowned. Chun Xingdao is the student who has never lost a quarrel. The gray-haired Dean Zhao Shou also asked. Seriously, that student became a member. Zhang Shun proudly said yes. It's my student. Su Xi's uncle, Li Mubai and Chen Taiji, were happy and sour. The slippery Dean Zhao Shou frowned. According to the situation of the previous annual examination, there was definitely fraud in this session. But Xu Qian'an is a student of Yunlu Academy. Cheating doesn't have his share, but if you say it's all about strength, it seems a bit far-fetched. Zhao Shou Chun Xingdao should not be a member. What did Uncle Ci do? Zhang Shun restrained his joy. The old side-questioning lean is the best choice. But to say that the best is absolutely untestable. It's not even close, but it's not a masterpiece. And how to get the three competent officers to choose at least two. Support him to report the news. The student immediately pulled out a piece of paper from his bosom. He stepped forward and said, listen to the adult. Su wrote a poem in the third scene. He is highly praised by the fellows of Tokaku University. The other examiners were also convinced. Plus he did excellent in his first two exams. That's how I became a member. Dean Zhao Shou saw this. Reach out and take the folded rice paper. Unfold slowly. Then he fell into a long silence. It's been a long time. He muttered under his mouth, caught in some kind of emotion, temporarily unable to get rid of it. Zhang Shun looked at him. I want to ask, but I didn't dare to know. It was a good while. Zhao Shou suddenly laughed and wrote a good poem. I will engrave this poem with my own hands in the temple of Yah. Let him be part of Yunlu Academy. Future generations will look back on this history. That's all it takes. The three great Confucians felt incredible. I snatched the manuscript from the dean's hand and read it. The next moment, the expressions of the three of them froze with relief. Is also immersed in a certain emotion as Zhao Shou was before. Li Mubai suddenly burst into tears, and it was difficult to walk. It is difficult to travel in many divergent roads. Gina will sometimes break through the wind and waves, straight to the clouds and sails into the sea. This poem is written about our Yunlu Academy, looking back on the 200 years since the establishment of Guozijian. Yunlu Academy entered the darkest era in history. The students studied hard, strive for progress. But in exchange, there is no blood in the blood tank. Everywhere is full of talents, and there is nowhere to show them. Stop cupping and throwing spoons and can't eat. Draw your sword and look around dazed. These last two sentences are simply a stroke of genius. Let a few great Confucian heroes suddenly come to life. The mood is agitated. Zhang Shun got rid of the agitated emotions. Dean in a low voice. Xu Qian'an is my disciple. I taught it with a lot of painstaking work. Zhao Shouxin comforted him. You've worked hard, Zhang Shuni said rhetorically, to cultivate talents for the academy. I have an unshirkable responsibility. Impeachment is hard. I have a small request, though. Hope the dean will satisfy you. When carving poems with your own hands, remember to write a few small words after the old signature. Sure, Zhang Shensi said carefully. Jingzhu personnel. Zhao Shou hasn't answered yet. Mrs. Chun and Li Mubai preemptively said, "I'm against it." Zhang Shun was furious at what my student had written. "What's your business? It's your turn to object." The two big Confucians blew their beards and stared at the bullshit. "You don't know what level your students are? Who wrote this poem? You dare to say you don't know?" A question mark flashed in Zhao Shou's heart. "Chen Xingdao? What did you just say?" "This poem was not written by Uncle Su Ci." Mrs. Chen snorted. "Uncle Su Ci is good at strategy. The poems are mediocre. How to make such an inspiring masterpiece?" Li Mubai took over. "It's not my student Xu Qian's doing." Zhang Shin smiled and said with a smile, "When will you become your student again?" "That's my student too. So, no matter what, it's not wrong to write my name." The voice fell. The three Confucians quarreled again. Dean Zhao Shou listened for a moment. Probably understood that this poem was not written by Uncle Su Ci. It was his cousin who was known as a servant by Rulin. To put it this way, Uncle Su Ci also cheated. Confucianism pays attention to character. The higher the rank the Confucian, the more attention is paid to the firmness of character. Plainly, every Confucian has a very high personality and integrity. Cheating is not a subsection. If there is a conflict with the main subject, will affect future promotions. Zhao Shou suddenly asked, "By the way, what is our member doing?" "Zhang Xindao governs the country and the art of war." Zhao Shuwenyan nodded reassuringly. "Ruler in the art of war. That's fine. There will be no impact on future promotions." Zhao Shou said, "You don't have to argue over a poem. I think the head of the cousin of the Xu world. Donate the matter to the college. That's the biggest reward for us." The three great Confucians said in unison. That's what the dean said. The three Confucians thought to themselves at the same time. Wait for a good work later. In addition, they added a sentence in their hearts very tacitly. Despicable villain Yang Gong. The next day, the Su mansion held a feast. Entertained friends and family. The Su clan was overjoyed. A while ago, Su Dalong was just made an earl. Turned his head, and Su Xingyan won the membership again. The Su family is a sign that they're going to rise. The guests drank and blew on their own. Do Lang and Ji Lang can become talents. You've done a lot of work. Every article and martial arts have been cultivated by you. You're better than those masters. I happen to have a pair of grandchildren and 2 eggs at home. You help me bring it for a few years. Su Pingji was proud. A few laughs. He agreed. Okay, no problem. Uncle sent the 2 cubs with him. Su Qian complained in his heart. You've got a fart credit. You're obviously not a benevolent person. Su Pingji and Su Xingyan slandered their father in their hearts. It's really self-aware. You're just a vulgar martial artist. This side of the west gate of the capital. Soldiers defending the city. Suddenly, I heard a Sanskrit sound that seemed to be there and nothing. Ethereal, as if from the sky. A soldier gouged out his ear. I found that the Sanskrit sound still echoed in my ears. So he asked suspiciously, "Have you heard any strange noises?" He just finished asking. Then he saw the golden light of the Buddha, rising from the west. It's as if the sun is rising. They raised their eyes and looked at the pure Buddha's eyes. God is pious and gentle. It's like a cleansed mind. Unconsciously, they let go of their grip on their spears. The soldiers, who had not had time to hope, noticed the anomaly. Grabbed the drumsticks. Hit hard again and again. The dull sound of drums spread throughout the 4 fields. Is guarding the hearts of the soldiers. It is in the hearts of the people of Dongsheng. This side of the Su mansion. Su Qian who is raising a toast. I thought of the words of the monk of the sacred book. When Su Qian came, there was no curse. What is coming? He was stunned at first. Then immediately wake up. The envoys of Buddhism came. The Buddhism of the Western regions has finally arrived. They came for Samboan, coming for the monk of the sacred book. It's not good. Su Qian is like a great enemy. The traitor has shielded me from the sky. Buddhist monks, it should be impossible to see through the existence of the monk of the divine book. I'm the organizer of Sambo. Dealing with monks is certainly unavoidable. I've heard that Buddhism has all kinds of weird powers. For example, he has a heart and something like that. If that's the case, they can't hear my thoughts. The flames are getting better. Xu Qi was quiet for a while. Leave the toilet on the grounds of going to the toilet. He's going to weigh it. How to face the envoy group of the Western region's Buddhism. A bold plan took shape in Xu Qian's mind. The arrival of the mission this time. Both a crisis. Another opportunity. The identity of the monk of the sacred book. The people of Buddhism know best. I can take this opportunity to knock on the side. Dig out more information. In this way, it is also good to give an explanation to the monk of the divine book. He looked at Zhongli and said, "Girl, let's go." Zhongli, who was still eating, had goo written all over his face. But he didn't dare to resist. This side of the dock. A three-masted sail ship docked slowly. Zhang Xuanfu sighed with emotion. He has been away from Beijing for more than 2 months. Leave Beijing in the middle of winter. And then back is already the willow branch sprouting. Everything is fishy. It has been since Su Ningyan died in battle. The surging sorrow at the time of the prison escape. The wound is now precipitated in my heart. Be the subordinate he will always remember. Years later, reminiscing about the boy who jumped away. There may be a faint sadness and regret in my heart. Wait for the branches to finish with the green bell in a deep voice. Let's go and worship Ningyan. Yang Yi looked back expressionlessly. The voice was deep. I'm going to fight people too. This side of the yamen. Xu Qian took Zhong Li out of the Golden Jade Hall. I was about to visit my own hall. Suddenly he paused. The two looked at each other. They all froze there. It's like a stone statue. Nicholas Song, they're all stupid. Who is this man? Why does he look so similar to Su Ningyan? Do we have such a gong in the yamen? Are they siblings? But Su Ningyan has no brothers. One question at a time. In the minds of the people who return to the south, I am most afraid that the air will suddenly be quiet. I'm most afraid of memories suddenly rolling. The cramping does not subside. I'm most afraid of seeing you suddenly. Xu Qian thinks. The lyrics fit their mood perfectly. But what are they doing now? It's embarrassing. It must have been Zhongli who brought me bad luck. He raised an embarrassed but polite smile. Hello, everyone. My name is Xu Qian. Nicholas Song stared at Xu Qian. It took all his strength to speak, trembling. You are Su Ningyan. The others did not speak. Silently looked at him. Hold your breath. Xu Qian smiled awkwardly and said that it was me. I didn't die hearing his answer. There was silence for more than 10 seconds. Nicholas Song suddenly shouted, rushing wildly and pounced on Xu Qian. Why didn't you die? You're dead. What's going on with the big change in appearance? How did you come back to life? Tell us about it. Xu Qian's face was loveless. This will be explained later. He pushed Nicholas Song and the others away. He grinned and pointed to the silver gong sign on his chest. Said to Li Yuchen, I'm a silver gong. Liu Kun Pratanda. Calm and handsome is good. It's not in vain my hard work. Xu Qian looked at Zhongli again. Little old girl, come over for a moment. Tell you about it. I don't know what's going on. Was pushed to Li Yuchen by Xu Qian. Li Yuchen looked at Zhongli. I just felt a cold snake crawling behind me. The scalp is numb inch by inch. The girl's hair was dry and messy. Coarse cloth robes are not folded. I can't see my face. Li Yuchen looked frightened. Covered his hind legs again and again. Growling said, what kind of girl is this? Make her disappear. Xu Qian hurriedly sent away the martial arts world. Zhongli, you go first. I stabbed the front with a knife. Turn right, and you are. Zhongli had no choice but to walk away aggrievedly. Next, Xu Qian explained in detail to everyone the story of his resurrection from the dead, and how he became a whoredom after that. The two little brothers were stunned when they heard this. I can't hide my envy. Jiang Lu sighed. Birth pills can make people peel off and husk. Harvest a new body. I heard that His Majesty had asked the superintendent before. The superintendent didn't give it. Then Chu Kaiwei is not your kid's good friend. Xu Qian'an ignored his ridicule, hugged Nicholas Song's shoulders, and said, "Don't talk about this. It's a rare reunion of brothers. Tell Fonts to be merry in the evening." Who knew that Nicholas Song shook his head firmly. I said no-nonsensely, "I won't call Fonts again. I'm not what I used to be. Now Nicholas Song will be an enterprising one. A person who practices assiduously. Bright, you will change. I'm going to change too. You can't look at me with the same eyes you used to have." Hukan Li ignored him, turned around and hugged Zhu Guangxiao and walked out. "You don't go and forget it. Let's go together tonight. It's called Fonts. I'll just have a treat." Smiled at Zhu Guangxiao again. "I still owe you 5 times to call Fonts." Song Tingfeng, who had already written the words, swallowed a mouthful of saliva. As soon as he gritted his teeth and stomped his foot, he followed. "You swallowed the words in mine. Tonight, too. I'm going to ask Fong Si to drink." Xu Qian's face was serious. "Righteous words. Can't marry you. It's no longer Nicholas Song as before. Drink and have fun, and let loose the wreckage. It's up to me and Hirotaka to do it. You are the enterprising Nicholas Song." Nicholas Song choked on this. An old face panicked. "Anyway, it's already faceless and skinless. I simply don't pretend. Tonight's workshop division. He had to be in place." Xu Qian looked at him. I was distressed for 2 seconds. Then he laughed wildly. The foothold of the Buddhist mission was the Sanyang Post Station in Xiqing. It is also the largest post station in the outer city. There are 300-year-old willows planted in the yard near the 2 sides. Hence the name. Xu Qian, after catching up with his colleagues. "I came to Sanyang Station alone to inquire about the news." The aliens of the inn walked out of the gate. Silently entered an alley. In the alley, standing stood a young man dressed in a hairpin suit. One-handed hidden knife. Back to the wall. "Wait a long time." The clan handed over the note. "Your Excellency, this is the list of the Western Region's mission. The master of the team leader is called the Evil One. Master Du Evil has just been summoned to the palace. No more wars." Xu Qian flicked his fingertips. "Broken silver throws an arc. Caught by a clan. Send them away." Xu Qian quickly took off the beating guard and supported him. Then he took out a monk's robe from the fragment of the book and put it on. He touched his head. "Cruel in my heart, comfort yourself by saying, although it was hard to grow a little hair, but it can be longer. It can only be sacrificed." A few minutes later, a masculine and handsome monk came to the door of the inn. It's not the aliens who guard the door. Rather, a young monk. The monk came up and blocked the way. "What is this senior brother called?" Xu Qian clasped his hands together. "Recite the Dharma, name Amitabha. Poor monk Qinglong Temple Hingyuan. I learned that the same sect came from the Western regions. Come and see you." The monk wasn't easy to fool either. Looking at Xu Qian, he asked, "Senior brother Dao Hingyuan has never been cheap." Xu Qian looked like his own secret, said in a knowing tone, "Poor monks are warrior monks." The monk suddenly realized. The tone suddenly became polite. "Senior brother Hingyuan. Inside. Please ask Xu Qian to be guided by the monk guarding the door. Walk through the front yard. Come to the inner courtyard." The monk stopped in the courtyard. Walked in alone. "Senior brother Hingyuan is here." A moment later, "I'll go and inform Uncle Jinshin." Xu Qian watched the young monk enter a certain room. Think back to the people on the list. The total number of the Western Region's mission is 21. The highest seniority. Naturally, it was Master Du E, the leader of this mission. There were 2 people further back. They are Jin Chun and Jin Si. These 2 should be brothers. Xu Qian was thinking. The young monk came out. "Please let in the deed." He followed the young monk into the room. Sandalwood burned in the house. Xu Qian clasped his hands together. Senior brother Jingchen. The middle-aged monk returned the salute to Heng Yuan for losing ground. Wait for Xu Qian'an to sit down. Jingchen said that senior brother Panshu had just returned to the temple. Xu Qian'an understood what he meant. He was trying to say, the monk of Qinglong Temple. At this time, I just got the news that the mission had entered Beijing. Han Shu presided over the front foot and just returned to Qinglong Temple. There is no special reason. I won't let the monks in the temple come and disturb me. This is the other party's temptation. Xu Qian'an has already contributed to this. Not only is it not slow, the poor monk has been dead for many years. Monk Jincheng smiled and said what happened to senior brother Heng Yuan. His voice seemed to have a strange magic. Let Xu Qian'an instinctively resist lying. I just want to be 1510. Explain your purpose clearly. Xu Qi's peace of mind is one who leads the 5 quality laws. The presiding officer of the Qinglong Temple is also a 5 product. The monks of this realm are like the rules of movement. They will actively or unconsciously influence those around them. Never saw the lawgiver fight with the Qian, but I used to go to Qinglong Temple to check the Sambo case. I have read the information of the masters of Buddhism. The fighting power of the lawgiver comes from the precepts. It's a bit like the Confucian way of saying things, but not as rogue as Confucianism. Xu Qian'an clasped his hands together. Recite symbols. Senior brother, and you are in the same door. Whether it is for the seal, to get out of trouble in the funeral case. Jingchen narrowed his eyes. The surface asked quietly. Senior brother Hanshu said. The monks of Hanshu returned to Qinglong Temple before crossing the Doom. The teacher's book has 3 orders and 5 declarations. Do not leave the seal in danger to the outside, including the monks of Qinglong Temple. The master who entered the city gave Xu Qian'an a set. Xu Qian'an shook his head. The sigh is not what master said. Tell the truth. The poor monks in the Sambo case were also involved. In the quiet and warm and peaceful eyes, it was as if there was a flash of golden divine light. Xu Qian'an showed a sad look. The poor monk had a disciple. The law name is Heng Hui. My brother and sister grew up together. Very emotional. More than 1 year ago, Heng Hui suddenly disappeared. He also borrowed a spell from the temple to shield his breath with a sword. I've investigated in many ways. It was found that he was suspected of being abducted and trafficked by a Yazzie organization. The ministers seemed to be grief-stricken. Only the Buddha name can be recited to ease the mood. Ba. Seeing senior brother Heng Yuan like this, his heart moved again, asked, there is a hidden story behind this case. Suwana nodded. That's good. Heng Hui's younger brother and a female pilgrim have feelings for each other. Privately decided for life. Therefore, he stole the magic weapon of Qinglong Temple. Run away. Jingchen frowned. A lot of doubts flashed. Asked, even if he eloped, you don't have to steal the artifact. Su Heng sighed and said to the female pilgrim, she is the concubine of the Jade King. The Jade King is His Majesty's younger brother. The prince, if there is no magic weapon to shield the breath, they can't do without the capital. Decreasing Jinsheng general trend. Momentarily speechless. Can't find the words. Subsequently, Xu Qian'an will be 2 young men and women who are uneasy about the world. How to get scammed. How to be passive. Get involved in partisanship. And how to die. Yu Faming roughly described a little. Master Jinshun clasped his hands together. Showing mercy. Recite the Buddha's name. Be silent for a few seconds. He said, but what does this have to do with Samboan? Su Qi smiled reassuringly. The face did not change, and the twists and turns of the case were bizarre. It's not as simple as it seems. At the end of last year, Yongzhen Mountain and River Temple in the royal family Sambo, suddenly destroyed by an explosion. The evil thing sealed under Sambo was born. The emperor was furious. Then let him think twice. The reason why the poor monk is involved in it. It's because the evil thing is parasitic in the body of senior brother Heng Hui. Master Jin Shun was eloquent. Eagerly asked where the evil thing is now. Hung Hui is not dead. How did Dafeng deal with this? Didn't the superintendent make a move? Or the evil has been resealed by the prison? The corners of Xu Qian'an's mouth were slightly hooked. The heart said that it was hooked. The old bald donkey, he put the Sambo case and the Pingyang County main case. In-depth analysis. The secrets behind the two cases are related. 1510 informed the Jincheng monk. Monk Jincheng didn't speak for a long time. It seems to be interlocked. Shocked by the intricacies of the case. The Jincheng monk's heart was constantly turbulent. Uncle Shi entered the palace to face the saint. Get to know the facts of the case. I didn't expect to stay at the post station, but he was the first to know the whole process. He spied on the case, which was indeed tortuous and bizarre. And the person who can solve this case is even more powerful. How did Heng Yuan's junior brother know? Believe so. Xu Qian knows. This is the doubt that the Jincheng monk will inevitably raise. He didn't panic at all. Force yourself against the instinct not to lie. Replied that although the case was sponsored by the three divisions, but it was the Sambo case and the Pingyang County case that really found out. It's a whore who beats the yamen. It's called Xu Qian. The poor monk intersected with Lord Su. Moni himself was involved in it because of Hung Hui's junior brother. This is clear. The monk actually wrote down the name. Silver Luo Xu Qian. Su Heng Yuan said slowly, senior brother didn't know. Xu Qian is this person. It is the most talented person the poor monk has ever seen in his life. In terms of spiritual practice, he's a genius. There are few people in the whole Daebong who can be compared to him. In terms of being an official, he resolutely did not take a stitch from the people. Take it as our responsibility to uphold justice in solving cases. Dafeng is a master like a cloud, but not as much as a finger of him. In terms of poetry, he is known as the first acolyte of the 200th year of Daong. It is said to be called fonts. The Oiran loved him to death, but he ignored it. Monk Jincheng was stunned. I didn't expect there to be such a person in the capital. A sharp light flashed in the eyes of the Jincheng monk. There are such people in the world. It's a pity not to enter my Buddhism. Su's wife was vigilant. The tout blows big. This grandson wants to cross me into the empty gate. So what use do I want this iron rod? He quietly diverted the subject. This time I came to find my brother. I just wanted to ask, what is the evil thing under Sambo? The poor monk knew that this thing was related to Buddhism. But I don't understand why Sambo in Daebong is suppressed. The pure dust monk looked embarrassed. This one, Su Heng Yuan took the initiative to ask what the senior brother had to hide. Jingchen said that this matter was a secret of Buddhism. The junior brother still doesn't want to ask again. Su Heng Yuan sneered. The poor monk understood. The poor monk regarded the Western region's deity as his own family. I didn't expect it to be in the eyes of the senior brothers of this sect. The poor monk is just an outsider. As he spoke, he got up and walked out. It's the poor monk's own passion. The poor monk left the Western regions. Buddhism is the Western region's Buddhism. Siryuji Temple is King Ryuji Temple. Not the same close ministers. Haji was furious. Stop. You and I are both disciples of Buddhism. Worship the Buddha. It's a family. What the junior brother said just now was really a heart-wrenching word. Don't say it later. Su Heng Yuan was overjoyed. It's a play. But he remained unmoved on the surface. Only snorted lightly and coldly. Yin Shinghot? Sighing and beckoning. Senior brother, please take a seat. I'll tell you what I know. Qinglong Temple is the only remaining spark of Buddhism in Dafeng in the Western regions. If the Buddhists of the Western regions still want to continue to preach in the Central Plains, Qinglong Temple is an irreplaceable force. In this context, Buddhism in the Western regions, I attach great importance to the family relationship with Siryuji. Any suspicions and cracks must be eliminated and avoided. Jin Chung said, that evil is indeed related to our Buddhism. Listen to Uncle Du. It was a traitor to Buddhism. Xu Qian'an's eyes narrowed slightly. Sure enough, it was as I expected. The monk of the sacred book is a person in Buddhism, but it was sealed by Buddhism himself. What is not a traitor? The pure dust monk sighed. Don't ask who it is, or how to say that it is a secret of Buddhism. Even if he is a poor monk, he does not know. Xu Qian really wanted to use the technique of looking at his wife. See if he's lying. But I endured it. Instead, he asked why it was a seal, and not overtook him. Jincheng monk Chunin said, after the presiding officer sent the news back to the western regions. Arhats and bodhisattvas attach great importance to this, with such a solemn gesture that thunder should inform each other. Except for the Battle of Shanhaiguan 20 years ago, there will be no more. All the way east, I've heard Uncle Water say that demon monk can't be killed. This passage is very informative. Xu Qian had to suspend the questioning. Stop and ponder. Other words, the divine book monk was sealed in Sambo. It's not because Buddhism is soft-hearted, but it can't kill him. The monk of the sacred book once said, he was lucky enough to step into the highest realm of immortality and immortality. But don't forget, Buddhism is a transcendent existence of the Buddha. Even the Buddha couldn't kill the monk of the divine book. My celestial book monk is more terrifying than I ever imagined. What kind of monster the hell is he? Xu Qian muttered in his heart. Such a terrible traitor. It can be called a big henchman. Afflicted choice seals in the realm of the ally gale. There must be a reason for it. Otherwise, wouldn't it be safer to seal it under your nose? Xu Qian said in a Chen voice, I understand. It turned out that it couldn't be killed. No wonder the corpse is to be divided and sealed. But why Samber? Jingchen said that the poor monk also wanted to know about this question. I also asked Uncle Transition on the road. Uncle sure told me. This started 500 years ago. An agreement with Emperor Wuzong of Dafeng. Xu Qian felt a little pity. 500 years ago, that year, Buddhism preached everywhere in Dafeng. Buddhist temples have sprung up like mushrooms after a rain. There is really a secret behind this. But most of the information from 500 years ago are destroyed or modified. There's no way to check it. We chatted a few more words. Xu Qian was sure that he could not find any other information. Then he got up and took his leave. The monk of Jincheng personally sent him away. Just out of the room, I saw a monk with beautiful eyebrows walk along the Wolf Road. Senior brother Jingchen returned the salute. Introduced, this is the Hengyuan junior brother of Qinglong Temple. You call him brother. Xu Qian returned the salute. Then said to Jingchen that senior brother doesn't have to send it. Watch Xu Qian's back leave. I thought for a long time and didn't retract my gaze. Jingchen asked what was wrong with the junior brother. Jingxi said for some reason. I always felt that he had an approachable power. Xian left the station. Walk along the street. Although I still don't know the identity of the monk of the sacred book. But at least a few things were identified. The first is that he must be a traitor to Buddhism. Conclusive. The second is that his cultivation is higher than I expected. So high that even the Buddha couldn't kill him. Although there is no evidence that the Buddha made a move. The third is that I am only responsible for helping him check his identity and find his memory. He did not participate in the feud with Buddhism. Unless I become a Valkyrie. But it's impossible. Fourth, I must hold this big, thick leg. Crazy, squeezing for benefits. The existence of the fifth divine book monk cannot be told to anyone. Feeding dad can't either. It's too big. Number 6, it's still early. Gulen listens to the music. Suddenly, Xu Qian saw the crowd in front of him. A familiar figure appeared. It was a burly and tall monk. Master Hengyuan also saw him. Surprised at the same time. I was surprised by Xu Qian's dress. Why did Lord Xu dress like this? Xu Qian was embarrassed and wanted to escape. Twice. Explained that this is performance art. As he spoke, he quickly changed the subject. Is the master going to Sanyang Station? Hengyuan nodded. Said that the same sect of the sect came. The poor monk should go and see him. Xu Qian'an controlled it. The corners of the mouth twitched. Cautiously asked, "Can you not see it?" Heng Yuan said he was puzzled. Why Xu Qian'an couldn't help but complain in his heart. "Because you might get beaten up." Heng Yuan glanced at him a few times. Hummer said, "I just came from Su's mansion after fasting." Xu Qian'an is upright. "What are you going to do at my house? By the way, I want to congratulate Jiro on winning the membership." "Didn't Jiro kick you out?" Xu Qian'an suddenly felt a strong sense of guilt. "I feel like I've just finished Pit, my little brother. I went to the Pit Dun and the simple master Heng Yuan. I'm not human." With a heart full of guilt, he took out a silver ticket worth 10 taels from his bosom, sincerely stuffed into the hands of the Heng Yuan monk. "Guru, this is my heart for the elderly and children in the health hall." Heng Yuan's heartfelt admiration. "Ba, Lord Su is really a good person." The more Xu Qian'an thought about it, the more embarrassed he became. Waved goodbye quickly. As for whether Heng Yuan can go to Sanyang Station, he didn't care. Not long after, Master Heng Yuan came to the door of the post station. The monk guarding the door looked at him a little dazed. "Xian, is our Buddhism so prosperous in Dafeng?" But he still stepped forward to stop Heng Yuan, asked where this senior brother was practicing. Master Heng Yuan put his hands together for 10. Poor monk Qinglong Temple. Heng Yuan learned that the sect was in the same sect. "Come and see you." The voice fell. The gatekeeper's eyes widened. "Looks like he's..." Heng Yuan wondered what was wrong. The monk guarding the door gave him a deep look. "No problem. Senior brother is here. I'll go to the communication later." And he came out with a blank face. Let Heng Yuan in. The more Heng Yuan thought about it, the more weird he felt. "Start by revealing your name." The expression of the gatekeeper is very strange, especially after the pass. There was a seeming hostility again. Under the leadership of the gatekeeper, walked through the front yard, arrived in the backyard, entered a nondescript meditation room. The monk of Jinsheng looked at Heng Yuan with sharp eyes. The dust voice said that Qinglong Temple was Heng Yuan. Heng Yuan clasped his hands together. "Recite the Buddha's name." It was the poor monk. The monk of Jinsheng said in a deep voice, "And the monks do not speak. Hear this." Heng Yuan's most intuitive feeling. "It's the alarm bell ringing in my ears." "Can't lie. Be honest in your answers." Heng Yuan clasped his hands together. Frankly said that he was a poor monk. The Jinsheng monk was silent. "I just used the lawgiver's abilities. Can be confirmed." The self-proclaimed Heng Yuan monk was not lying. Unless the other party is also a lawyer, able to modify the precepts on their own. That's the problem. The one in front of me is Heng Yuan's words. Who is a person just now? What is his purpose? Jingchen carefully reviewed the conversation. Shocking discovery. The other party came for Sambo's windbreaker. That's the case. The nature of the matter is not as simple as pretending to be Heng Yuan. It's about the monks. He had to be cautious. But the warrior monk can also roar as a lion in Buddhism, even if it's not constant. Presumably also a Buddhist. And the one in front of you, even if it's really Heng Yuan, he really came just to visit. No other intentions. Thoughts flashed through me. Monk Jinsheng made a decision immediately. He shouted and took it. Immediately, several monks in cyan underwear stepped forward. "I want to hold Heng Yuan's shoulder." Heng Yuan's face also sank completely. Inexplicable from the start. "I still want to do it." Clay figurines also have 3 points of fire. Heng Yuan's gas machine shook. There was a thud. Easily shook a few monks out of the way. Monk Jing Shun pinched the seal with both hands. "Chant until you can't move." Hands can't move. The mouth cannot be spoken. The voice fell. The handprints ripple like water-like golden ripples. Gently but firmly sweep across the distance. In an instant, Heng Yuan seemed to be in a quagmire. Except that the mind is still running. The body has lost control. But he was defying the precepts with brute force. Trying to break out of the mud. Jin Chung frowned. This self-proclaimed monk of Heng Yuan It was even stronger than he expected. He couldn't help but shout and take it quickly. Several more warrior monks rushed out of the room. Several mages and Zen masters have low combat effectiveness. You have to rely on the warrior monks to take people. But Heng Yuan was before the warrior monks surrounded him and broke the precepts. The chi machine of the whole body is bulging. A lion roar shook everyone. Then he dragged the afterimage out at great speed, pounced on Jinsheng. Monk Heng Yuan was angry. I will teach this fellow man from the West a lesson. But at this moment, a figure stood in front of Jing Chun. His whole person is like a gold-lacquered sculpture. Looked at Heng Yuan with a calm expression. A fluttering slap of the hand. The palm of the palm is just pushed on Heng Yuan's chest. The latter seemed to have been hit in the chest by Miyagi wood. The figure flew out upside down, until the body is embedded in the wall of the inner courtyard. That's when it stopped. The golden monk looked at Heng Yuan with an indifferent expression. He is practicing the secret method of Buddhism. King Kong is not bad. At this time, Jingchen said lightly, Yuan, stay at the post station. Wait for Uncle Doer to come back. I have something to ask you. Heng Yuan snorted coldly, turned into an afterimage again, and pounced fiercely. His goal was not Jingchen. It's meditation. Jingxi didn't react at all. Was pinched by Heng Yuan's golden head. The next moment his body was weightless. Was picked up like a chicken by Heng Yuan. An over-the-shoulder fall slams the filament against the wall. There was a bang. The wall that connected the courtyard was cracked. The knife that still couldn't stop the mirror silk flew out. Heng Yuan followed in a flash. The punching bag's big fist creaked as he squeezed. He slammed the golden head hard. A sound of broken iron resounded through the inner courtyard. Heng Yuan is not giving up. The casserole is a big fist connected constantly. Smashed in the face. Make a loud noise. Jingchen looked at this scene and was terrified. Hurriedly ran out and shouted in a deep voice, enough is enough. Heng Yuan snorted coldly again. Then he stopped and got up, patted the dust off his body, stared coldly at Jingxi. The face is disdainful, the skin is rough, and the flesh is thick. That's it. Wu Song's temper was finally vented. Xu Qian'an has always had a misunderstanding about Heng Yuan. Thinks that the other party is a simple and gentle Lu Jishan. In fact, Heng Yuan is a thug in this thick and simple coat. A person who is not short-tempered can't be an uncle who breaks in a pingyuan at night. The act of killing someone and walking away. It's just in Heng Yuan's mind. Lord Su is a good person who is kind and generous. Such a good person deserves to be treated with tenderness. The sun of early spring is warm in the west. Wearing a golden and red robe, Master Do Evil was fortunate to return. He paused at the door of the inn. Then he stepped out to the inner courtyard. The inner courtyard was in shambles. The warrior monks carried the ground where the sand rammers had cracked. One of the hardest working. It's a strange big bald head. Du looked at it a few times. Didn't speak. He came out of the house. Converse in the language of the western regions. Put the truth and falsehood through forever. Tell Master Du in detail. Master Du Lu turned his head to look at Heng Yuan, who was working hard. He asked, beating Jingxi to the point where he was powerless. Jingchen nodded. Added yes. However, senior brother Jingxi was not injured. The Diamond Sutra is not something that ordinary people can break. Master Du Lu did not take a stand. Ask the first one instead. Heng Yuan when talking to you. But there is a message about evil. For example, he knows the roots of evil. Know the message of some aspect of evil. Jin Chang recalled for a moment, shaking his head. He only said that the seals under Sambo were related to Buddhism. And when telling the case, he said that he had seen the severed hand, lodged on his junior brother Heng Hui. Master Do gave me a sigh of encouragement, and I knew who he was. Now you go to fight the Gingren Yamen. Find the organizer, Xu Qian'an. I have something to ask him. On the other side, Xu Qian'an just came out of the hook bar, fluttering all over. I feel like my bones are crispy. Soon after, Xu Qian'an returned to Shufu. I saw it sing Eclercsai. Hurriedly ran out of it. Lord Xu, you can count yourself back. Xu Qian'an went straight to the point. What is the matter? Bai Yuan said not long ago. A Buddhist monk came to the yamen to look for you. I didn't find it, so I went to see Wei Gong. Duke Wei sent me to wait for you at the mansion. Su Qi's peace of mind was full of bandits. It's just a monk. Wei Yuan was guilty of treating him so solemnly. What kind of thing are the Westerners? I am dignified in the East and the Central Plains. When will you be able to stand up? It's really infuriating, he said expressionlessly. I know. I'll see you later. Kurihara breathed a sigh of relief. Suddenly I remembered something again, said Wei Gong. I heard you've been wandering around lately. He did not wait for dispatch at the yamen, and they were not to be found. He was angry. Say you've got 3 months of money gone. Xu Qian was immediately anxious. I'm going to see the Buddhist mission. Remembered to tell Wei Gong. When he came to Sanyang Post Station again, the setting sun is already hanging in the west. The evening sun is a magnificent golden red. Xu Qian said lightly, the official Xu Qian. He is the organizer of Samboan. Master Du summoned me. Lead the way, guard. The monk of the gate saw the comer. Suddenly a figure came to mind. He took a deep breath. Hold back your anger. Make a gesture of please. Xu Qian followed the monk into the inner courtyard. It looks like there's just a fight. The next moment he saw a familiar figure. It's far away. In work here. Su Deheo felt sorry for him in his heart for 3 seconds. Since, I will definitely be a good person in the future. Under the guidance of the gatekeeper, Xu Qian entered a room. There were 2 monks in the room. The one on the right sits on him. On the left is Jing Chun, who has met. Xu Qian clasped his fists and saluted. Ever seen Hungary? The old monk of the general trend also said gently. Why did Lord Xu pretend to be Heng Yuan, a warrior monk of Qinglong Temple? Xu Qian replied seriously. I'm trying to figure out what's sealed under Sambo. Sambo hinted that the official would investigate it single-handedly. I found out that there are a lot of secrets in it. Yangtze Temple was built on top of a large town. The town is sealed with evil creatures. The mountain and river temple in Yangtze was blown up. Evil things also come out of trouble. The officer personally went into the water to investigate. It was found that the remaining formation stone pillars were engraved with runes. At first I thought, sealed under Sambo are the traitors of the previous generation. Can be as the case progresses. With the advent of Hung Hui, it turned out that Sambo was sealed with a severed hand. This official speculated from this. That severed hand is related to Buddhism, but it doesn't matter if it's the governor or the royal family. It's all secretive. Bo Xu Qian has repeatedly solved major cases in Beijing. There are no cases that I can't find, but this question is like a stump in the throat. It kept me awake at night. Tea and rice do not think. The hungry master nodded slowly. That's why we had the temptation before. Xu Qian nodded. It's the default. This rhetoric. I'd already thought about it when I was pretending to be Heng Yuan. He disguises himself as a madman who is obsessed with solving crimes. For the origin of the severed hand as well. The secret behind it lingers. So after the Western region's mission entered Beijing, Zhao Maoheng came here to test it. There was nothing wrong with his temptations. All questions are point and click. There was no voluntary disclosure. Any information about the book box. Fully play one and only know one. I don't know the second organizer. Master Do smiled. Lord Xu wants to know about evil. Xu Qian was overjoyed. Appropriately exude intellectual curiosity. The master is willing to inform. It's okay to cry and be laughed by the old monk. But you have to enter my Buddha's door. Become a disciple of the poor monk. Xu Qian's face twitched. Shake your head and refuse. This official cultivates martial arts. I can't practice Buddhism anymore. The hungry master seemed to have known that such a reply would come. Not only is it not slow, you can turn into a warrior monk. Xu Qian'an looked at it. A suspicion that had been pressed in my heart for a long time was confirmed. The warrior monk and the warrior are indeed on the same path. My guess was correct. The warrior monk system in Buddhism. It is for outer disciples. What is the next rank of that 8-rank warrior monk? He asked shyly. Then I turned to the warrior monk. Can you marry a wife and have children? Master Doom shook his head. Although the warrior monk does not use a sword, but they shall not marry or have children. It's not about spiritual practice. It's the rules of Buddhism. As soon as you enter the Buddha's door, you are a monk. The same is true for warrior monks. He is a monk. How can you start a family? Su's wife's face regretted. I yearn for Buddhism very much. However, there are 9 generations of single generations in the family. That's it. It seems that I have no connection with Buddhism. It's a big regret in my life. Master Do Evil was a little happy. He didn't expect Xu Qian'an to be so friendly to Buddhism. So he smiled and said with a smile, Lord Xu, what do you want to ask in the future? Just ask. The poor monks who can say it will tell you. You don't have to pretend to be a Buddhist disciple. Xu Qian'an was decisive from the heart. The official knows his mistake. Then he instructed Jing Si to give it away. After Jing Si sent Xu Qian'an away, Master Du summoned Heng Yuan into the house again. Heng Yuan clasped his hands together. I recited a sentence of symbols. Master Du asked, listening to Jin Shun. That silver luo Xu Qian'an claims to have fellowship with you. Heng Yuan nodded. There is no denial. Master Du asked again about the previous misunderstanding. It's all because of this person. You have not grumbled in your heart. Heng Yuan said calmly, no matter what you do, disciples can be tolerant and understanding. After speaking, I added in my heart that I owe number 32 lives. I owe my life to my Lord. These are great favors. He shook his hand again, and he asked what kind of man he was. Heng Yuan pondered for a moment, said that Master Su and I met in the funeral case. At that time, I was involved in this case because of Brother Heng Hui, the golden gong of the Yamen. At that time, the hiding place of me and senior Brother Heng Hui was blocked. I thought I would survive death. They will also be kept in prison. I didn't expect Lord Su, who was the organizer. He found out I was involved. Is not an accomplice of Heng Hui's junior brother, and he let me go at once. Monk Jincheng snorted coldly and said that he is still a good person. Heng Yuan continued, after I left the Qinglong Temple, I have been living in a health hall in the south of the city. There, a group of homeless elderly people and children are being taken in. After Lord Su found out, generosity, and every once in a while, they gave money to help them. You must know that his monthly salary is only 5 taels of silver. He was still a gong at the time, but he never complained. He also comforted me by saying that the money was picked. I secretly investigated him. He's different from all the watchmen. He has never used power for personal gain to oppress the people. Those silver. Or he saved it by cutting back on food and clothing. The hungry mage was non-committal. Doing good deeds is not necessarily a good person. People have 1,000 faces. Heng Yuan frowned, displeased. Continued, the disciple was talking to the senior uncle. One thing before the Samber case. He used to be for a girl he didn't know. Almost chopped. To defile his superiors. And he went to prison for it. Was sentenced to be cut in half. If it weren't for the destruction of Yongzhen Mountain and River Temple at that time, the imperial court is in dire need of personnel. He was dead by then. The minister pondered Heng Yuan's words carefully, combined with Xu Qian's previous performance, only to find out that he was not blindly boasting. Master Do had apparently noticed this as well. I thought about it for a long time. He asked him what was so special about him. Heng Yuan pondered and replied that in addition to being talented, he is a wizard of martial arts. There is nothing special about it. Master Doom seemed a little disappointed. Drought Keeper, go out and get busy. Wait for Heng Yuan to exit the room. The pure dust monk said, Uncle. Heng Yuan is not lying. So it seems that Xu Qian'an is indeed a great good man. Although this man's way of acting is annoying. The handsome meditative monk immediately said so. Will he still have anything to do with evil? Master Du, he shook his head. Shin said that he was behind the case. It is the remnants of the 10,000 demon kingdom, Emperor Yuan Jing and the supervisor. The former does not contribute to the palace. The latter watched from the sidelines. It has little to do with Nakra. He is a good man. We don't have to embarrass him. Jingchen snorted coldly. Dafeng's words were unbelievable. Repeated contract breaks. Why should we ally with them again? I don't know what the Arhats and Bodhisattvas think. As a member of the Arhats, Master Dewey looked at the dereliction of duty. Then he said slowly, the northern barbarians have the blood of the demon god. It has been with the northern demon clan for thousands of years. There are many barbarian tribes in southern Xinjiang. The 7 most powerful ancient tribes are also counted as descendants of the demon god. The northeast witch god sect already has a witch god who has surpassed the ranks. If you want the emperor of Kyushu to be illuminated by the light of Buddha everywhere, only an alliance with Dafeng. The 2 disciples of Jincheng, Jinsi learned from Uncle Shi's words. Extract an important message about Buddhism. So an alliance with Dafeng. It is because Dafeng has no existence beyond the grade. There is no entanglement with the demon god. Jin Chung said tentatively. So what do we do next? Follow the trail of evil. That's it for Dabin's side. The unfathomable Tao of the master of evil. I heard that recently, because of the dispute between heaven and man in the Daomen, many people from the rivers and lakes poured into the capital. The government built 4 rings in the outer city. Let's take 2 of them. Meditate. You face the warriors of the capital with the body of King Kong. In the morning, you take a ring at random, chanting sermons. As he spoke, he slowly stood up, walked out of the room. As for the main seat, since Dafeng is here, then wave your shoulders. The Central Plains does not know the danger of my Buddhism for a long time. At night, Xu Qian'an and his colleagues went to the teaching workshop division. It's still the young Nicholas song from the past. Cheeky followed, but Su Bai was not happy. When others welcomed Daden, he pondered how much that was true. Spend 100 taels of my silver. I came to the workshop to talk about love with the Oiran. It belongs to the Scenery Festival Moon. It is not mixed with vulgar money transactions, but with so many colleagues to drink. It's not free. They drank until late at night. Xu Qian'an had no choice but to keep in his heart. At the same time, he did not forget to ridicule Li Yuchen. To give my head a good night's sleep. Everyone must listen to the command when shaking the bed at night. Swing to the beat. Don't go out of tune. The next day, Xu Qian'an rode Erlang's mount. Hurry back to the Yamen. Come to the knife hall. Li Yuan wrote a reimbursement form and handed it over. The number of participants in this entertainment is 21. The project is to sing the praises of the imperial court and the Duke of Wei. It cost a total of 164 taels and $3. Xu Qian'an pondered for a moment. I'm a face-saving person, so let Li Yuan send it to Hayakalu on her behalf. It didn't take long. Li Yuan left. We'll report back. Wei Gong said that you didn't write the note yourself. Lack of sincerity. So this expense cannot be reimbursed. Xu Qian'an nodded. This shows that Wei Yuan is dissatisfied, but willing to reimburse me. Don't worry, Gong Wei. Humble duty will definitely go to the soup for you. Repay your great kindness. Xu Qian'an immediately wrote a reimbursement form. Blow dry the ink. Fold it and let Li Yuan run again. However, it didn't take long. Now Li Yuan is back. Wei Yuan's reply was not to approve. Xu Qian'an was angry. Asked what Gong Wei said. Li Yuan hesitated for a long time. Only then did he cautiously say to Wei Gong, the words you write are too ugly. So don't approve. Xu Qian'an looked up to the sky and roared. The monthly offering of the silver gong is 10 taels of silver, which has not been announced. Batch words mean, Xu Qian'an spent about a year and a half of his salary last night. This moment made a discount for his father's weight in his heart. After spring, next the most talked about, TV that was supposed to be a month later. The title of the gold list is 4 words. Since ancient times, it can touch people's hearts, down to the country people, up to the emperor's princes. All of them attach great importance to the imperial examination. However, Yuanjing, 37 years. There are a lot of broken things. There is a dispute between heaven and man in the Daomen once in a year. Isn't it more attractive than the imperial examination? Later, the Western region's mission entered Beijing, causing a stir again. The next day, a young and handsome monk come to the ring in the South City. Loosen one's tongue. It is said that it is necessary to use the Vajram magic of Buddhism. Teach the Central Plains martial arts masters. On the same day, it provoked a group of heroes to attack it. But no one can break the body of Vajra. Leave the scene gloomily. The northern castle is located opposite the southern castle. There was also a high-ranking monk from the western regions who occupied the ring. But it's not a challenge to Dabong masters. Rather, it is an opening of the altar to preach the Dharma. The people of the city flocked to it. I listened to the monk's sermon with fascination. There was a prodigal son who wept bitterly. There are villains who are afraid of the past. There are several generations of single-handed men who have come to their senses. To become a monk and practice. That's how the incident fermented. Gradually, the people also had some complaints. It's all 3 days. That little monk has never been defeated. You charlatans. It's not that you boast of being strong. How can you not even beat a little monk? What do you know as a flat-headed citizen? Is that an ordinary little monk? It was a monk from the western regions. People from the western regions Buddhism. Even if it's a child. Not to be underestimated. The high-grade and strong people in the capital are like clouds. How no one came out. Defeat this arrogant little monk. It is precisely because of the high quality. There are scruples. If you win, will be said to bully the small. If you lose, there is no place in the capital. As the conversation grows louder and louder, gradually, the style of painting is biased towards Dafeng. Some people who couldn't make up their minds at first. Listen to these words. I couldn't help but jump into the ring one after another. At the same time in the southern city of Kowloon, Xu Qian'an smiled and said that there was a good show. Go up and challenge. That man turned out to be a 6th-grade copper skin and iron bones. Heng Yuan said, it is a unique body-breaking miracle in Buddhism. It is far from being comparable to the copper skin and iron bones of the 6th grades. Chu Yuanji said jokingly, Master Heng Yuan, this is the unique body refining method of Buddhism in the Western regions. It belongs to the warrior monk system. Aren't you greedy? Heng Yuan replied very honestly. Nature is greedy. Xu Qian'an listened to it in his ears. He was hungry too. Because of the meditation on this body refining technique performed by the little monk, they just don't need to cook and pound. It can be compared to the refining method of copper and iron bones. Heng Yuan glanced at him. It is said that the Diamond Sutra cannot be cultivated by ordinary people. It is impossible for a person to attain cultivation without a foundation in the Dharma. Unless born with Buddha roots. Su Chi complained in his heart about the Buddha root you said. Is he a serious Buddha? When I first thought of this, he glanced at the crowd. I was stunned to find an old acquaintance. Xu Qian'an immediately walked downstairs. I met an acquaintance. Let's go check it out first. Chu Yuanji's gaze followed him, seeing that his target was an elderly and good-looking. The ordinary woman suddenly said a little speechlessly, Su Ningyan's hobbies are a bit unique. Heng Yuan suddenly lost the confidence to turn white. Dryly said that it is not necessarily a good thing to be a teenager. Su Qian teased Annie. Why are you here again? Look at your dress. Nor is it like a woman from a wealthy family. Chai, rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, tea. Isn't she fragrant? Day by day, I know that I run out to see the excitement. The woman ignored her. Xu Qian'an was not embarrassed at all and continued to grin. You care so much about the man on the stage. Is it your man? The old aunt, except for the charming little white eyes at the beginning. After that, I ignored it. Let him chirp in his ears endlessly. The fight in the ring didn't last long. After a stick of incense, the winner was divided. The sixth-rank martial artist was closed 3 times by the mirror's silk. Hammer in the chest. Finally, I couldn't hold on to it and broke the hard work. The man smiled bitterly, and the King Kong of the Buddha Gate was undefeated. It lives up to its name. After saying that, he seemed to be speechless and stayed any longer. Under the moon in the ring. Hurry away. The old aunt stomped her foot slightly. Blame that the man actually lost. Xu Qian'an said with a smile, this is like 2 knives colliding. In the case of similar brute force, which knife has better quality can be saved. The undefeated Vajra of Buddhism is said to have come from the hand of the Buddha. The quality of the dancer's copper skin and iron bones is uneven. You don't lose unjustly. The old aunt turned her head. It's better than losing with a knife. Why don't you go on stage? Didn't you slash a 6th-rank martial artist with 1 sword before? Sue's wife is no longer pretending. Straight to the point, he asked. The person you called was the one who came to beat me that day. Great God, which family are you the lady of? In which sector the man serves? The old aunt gritted her teeth fiercely and said, you come to the stage. Cut down this little monk. I'll tell you. She was not easy, only to let himself be removed from the sight of the Buddhist mission. He didn't want to have too much to do with Buddhist monks. So in the face of the provocation of the old aunt, he shook his head again and said, I can't break his King Kong undefeated. The disdain in the old woman's eyes deepened. Jokingly said that you were scared. Then, a Qingshan swordsman soared out of the restaurant next to him. Fluttering down in the ring, the crowd of onlookers took a look. Someone challenged the little monk again. Immediately energetic. I'm going to eat another wave of melons. By the way, we will discuss who the Aoyama swordsman is. Xu Yuanji on the stage was smiling, calmly looking directly at the little monk of meditation. I've only got 1 out. If you can block it, I'll lose. Xu Qian'an frowned. Xu Yuanji, how did he go up? It was Jingxi that this little monk had been dominating the ring. The face of the imperial court is not good-looking. The old aunt beside him seemed to know Zhuangyi Wanlang. I saw him go up. Immediately shouted excitedly. Meditation is not afraid. Slowly make a gesture of please. Then Xu Yuanji made 1. Movements that no one can understand. He held out his hand to the sky. Open the palms of your hands. Just when everyone thought he was bluffing, going to laugh the occasion. Someone saw it. A pebble flew up from his feet. More and more stones are rising into the air. A honeycomb surged into the palm of the Aoyama swordsman. Bang, bang, bang sound. The stones fit tightly together. A sword hilt was formed. With the convergence of stones, a 4-foot-long stone sword was formed. An uproar erupted all around. Xu Yuanji's hand is very bells and whistles. This boulder is a sword. It's a fairy trick, comparable from start to finish. The Western monks who were only beaten had a lot to look at. After the stone sword is formed, Xu Yuanji held his sword and handed it forward. The meditative monk has no way to hide. Put your hands together. Noritri, no evasión. Seeing that the momentum is coming too quickly. In an instant, the wind and thunder were fierce. The wind rises on the ground. The blowing caused the people around him to sway. Then there was a sharp sound that pierced the eardrum. This was followed by a dream of opportunity. Think of a wave of air like a frenzy. Blow the crowd in the distance over. Good thing to come in these 3 days, and has encountered so-called fluctuations in the air engine. The people did not dare to get as close to the ring as before. As a result, no one was injured. It's just that many people's ears have been shaken and bloodstained. Before the first sharp ring, The old ant's ears were covered by Xu Qian'an. The subsequent gas engine exploded. Even pressed him to death in Xu Qian'an's arms. Probably never been so intimate with a strange man. The old ant was red-faced and red-eared, while a few times, swinging a small fist at Xu Qian'an. "You stinky rascal. I took the opportunity to take a triumphant tour. I'm gonna beat you to death." Xu Qian'an was speechless for a while. "Great God, you're a little self-aware, okay? Just the way you look. I don't want to give it for nothing." Just in the middle of the two of them, Xu Qian'an suddenly saw a snow-white trumpet wrist in front of him, with a string of Bodhi bracelets. A series of question marks flashed in Xu Qian'an's mind. The Bodhi bracelet he picked up met by chance in the inner city that day. Golden Lotus Dao Chief. Win the book fragment from him, and a string of Bodhi bracelets. In that bracelet, by a nobleman sitting in a golden silk Namu carriage. Bought Xu Qian'an and looked at him. There was a thrill in the heart. No, no, no. That was praised by the Golden Lotus Dao Chief. A woman who will have a deep relationship with me in the future. That's her. Eligible to ride in a carriage made of golden silk Namu. So this old ant is the cousin of Emperor Yuanjing. Or which Princess Ban? What kind of relationship can such a woman have with me? No, 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 the thought can't be scratched. Maybe she has a daughter. She looks as beautiful as a flower. Fate with me. But he is so mediocre. What kind of beautiful girl can there be? At this time, Xu Qian'an suddenly remembered something. Shouted Chu Yuanji, did he win? Lingbao Guan's quiet backyard here. Emperor Yuanjing had a first talk with the national teacher. The old emperor, who could not regenerate, pinched his wife. Sighing, Chu Yuanjin also lost the woman. Ziguo she responded. A sordid hand. Impeachment wins or loses. Emperor Yuanjing nodded. But no matter what, all achieved the prestige of the little monk. It has achieved the prestige of Buddhism in the western regions. Luo Yuheng Xiaomei confided in His Majesty that she felt that she was at a loss. Emperor Yuanjing smiled. There's a loss. It's more helplessness. The little monk was young. The cultivation is amazing. There are no rising stars in the capital. How can I be? It's not good to let the masters of the Forbidden Army fight. Wouldn't it be even more humiliating? Luo Yuheng heard it. Emperor Yuanjing was blaming Chu Yuanji for not staying enough behind. Simply defeat the little monk. On the contrary, it has become a stepping stone for people to become famous. Emperor Yuanjing said again that the bald donkey was not good. I'm afraid I won't be able to return to the western regions easily this time. Luo Yuheng asked directly what His Majesty wanted to say. Let's put it bluntly. Emperor Yuanjing said lightly. A few days ago, Master Du, he wanted to meet with the superintendent. He refused. The supervisor has lived in the stargazing tower for a long time. Don't act about the world. If he ignores the monks of the western regions. When borrowing, I also asked the national teacher to help. Luo Yuheng's attention returned to the chessboard. I found myself losing. But he didn't panic. Secretly changed the position of the two pieces. In an instant, they had the upper hand. Emperor Yuanjing is upright. I was just distracted for a moment. In the third game, he lost again. Emperor Yuanjing left Lingbao Pass depressed. On the way back to the royal palace, Emperor Yuanjing's face was expressionless. The look was gloomy. Tell the old eunuch to let Wei Yuan patrol the Yuan. I want to see the little monk standing in the ring. The old eunuch lowered his eyebrows and was pleasing to the eye. It is the backyard of the health hall in the south of the city. Su wife and Chu Yuanji sat cross-legged. That sword just now used a few successes. Chu Yuanji shook his head, sidestepped the question. That little monk walked the same path as you. It's the opposite of you. Xu Qian'an was stunned. Chu Yuanji means meditation. The monk will only be undefeated. This is very similar to oneself with only one sword. On the contrary, it is an attack and a defense. Xu Qian'an asked, that Chu Zhuangyuan thinks I have this spear. Can you break his shield? Chu Yuanji said, Your heaven and earth are very powerful with one sword. After fusing the know-how of the new sword, there are no flaws. But it seems to me he was missing a soul. What you do is a slash between heaven and earth. It's just a slash from heaven and earth. And I'm not using swordsmanship. It is my righteous anger. When I'm lazy, sword chi is also lazy. I'm mild. The sword aura is also mild. But once I got angry, my sword intent can pierce the sky. This is righteous anger. This is the soul. This is the true meaning of 4 products and 5 husbands. Xu Qian'an said a little speechlessly, but you also said it. That's the true meaning of the 4 products and 5 husbands. I'm just a little Iara of the 7-rank refining God realm. Xu Yuanji said lightly, I can teach you Yangyi. Cultivate to a high and profound realm. It is equivalent to having the ability of 4 flats and 5 husbands in advance. Of course, the effect will definitely be greatly reduced. But with your heaven and earth and knife, cut down the Buddha gate Vajra. That's enough. Xu Qian'an listened to him talk about the trick of raising righteousness. Master Hingyuan is not shy of suspicion. Sit on one side and steal the teacher. Xu Qian'an tried to integrate his righteous anger into the knife. But it failed. Helplessly asked, it sounds not difficult. But how to integrate righteousness into the knife? Xu Yuanji said twice, you are calm. No joy or sorrow. Carefree and no anger. How this is overflowing. Xu Yuanji thought for a moment. Hook your hand at him, and you'll come over. I actually have a quick fix. Xu Qian'an immediately walked over. Xu Yuanji's backhand was a slap. Xu Qian'an was defenseless at all. I was completely confused. He was angry and said that you were a special brother Chu. You did it on purpose. Xu Yuanjin didn't feel embarrassed at all. Rhetorically asked, can you show a breath? Xu Qian'an directly gave him a roll of the eyes. Because it was all in vain. Completely ineffective. Yuan Jun suddenly pounced. Non-stop slap waving. Xu Qian'an tried his best to resist. But still fanned. A dozen big mouths. Facing the unrelenting Xu Yuanji. He was utterly furious. That's just at this time. Xu Qian'an stagnated his soul. A desire to vent arises. Choking. The incomparably sharp sword aura unfolded to distort the air. Xu Yuanji was overjoyed. The smile really worked. Xu Qian'an was right. The knife just now is beyond the limit of his usual sword chi. If you cooperate with the heaven and earth to show a knife, the power will be even higher. Xu Yuanjin said with emotion. Ordinary people don't say anything about it in 3 or 5 days before they can comprehend. You're a genius. Xu Qian'an complained speechlessly. No, you're a genius at teaching students. But if I use this knife every time, if you have to be beaten first, isn't it too much of a loss? Chu Yuanzong replied. Hence I say, it's easy to get started, mastery, but difficult. Your spirit needs external stimulation right now. Unable to perform on their own initiative, Xu Qian'an felt his own path of cultivation, fell into some kind of irreversible state. There is another secret method to practice. But me, it's still the boy who waits for death after slashing. But the power I can explode is getting stronger and stronger. I don't know if there will be a day when I can do it. A true master of the world. No one can stop me. A night fell. The monk in his underwear returned to the inn. I went straight to see Master Doom. Put your hands together and put your hands together. Uncle Grandpin Governor. I still don't see you. In the orange candlelight. The master of crossing evil nodded slowly. I know you and go down. Wait for the monks to retreat. Master Doom closed his eyes again. Heavenly spirit cover. A golden light rushed into the sky. The golden light rose. Pierced the night sky. Dark clouds rolled and surged in the night sky. Rolling black clouds. A ray of golden light lit up. Then a frenzied tide of golden light enveloped the entire capital. The clouds shook violently. A Buddha's face poked out. This Dharma statue is huge. but a face is the size of half the capital. Xu Qian'an woke up suddenly in her sleep, pale, and rushed out of the room. Looking up at the sky, I saw a golden Buddha face in the sky above the capital. This scene is a warning to his life. It's like a Buddha coming, see the world from the clouds. The door of the east wing and the next room were pushed open at the same time. Su Erlang said in a trembling voice, "Dad, is the big brother of the western region's Buddhism going to make a move in the capital?" That's when it happened. The law minister spat out his words. Like thunder, the sound reverberates, resounded throughout the capital. "Why don't you dare to see this seat?" Xu Qian'an shook his legs, while struggling to support. "Don't let yourself kneel. This Nemes, the high-level combat power of this world, is really terrifying." Su Pingji doesn't have that much willpower. At the moment, when the prestige sounded, his knees went limp. He simply fell to his knees, but fear at the same time. Humiliation welled up in him. Second Uncle Su supported the ground with both hands. Gritting his teeth, he would rather say goodbye. Don't blame it after the yelling. Su Pingji did not get a response from his nephew and son. Look up, only to find that his son was holding onto the wolf pillar and trying his best to support it. The nephew leaned his back against the door, stubbornly looking up at the clear sky in the night sky. The atmosphere froze for a while. Xu Qian'an couldn't help but laugh at second Uncle Qiao's cowardice. The spirit is all consumed on the ant. Su Ci secretly disliked the embarrassed old father. Kneel, and shout out. Luckily, there are no outsiders here. Su Ci asked the eldest brother intermittently. What is this Buddhist monk going to do? You are working as an errand for the cultivator's yamen. Know the inside scoop? Xu Qian'an thought that there was a bit of a contradiction, but not as serious as you might think. I don't know the specifics. Curious about this side of the building. Wei Yuan stood on the lookout in a green robe, looking up at a Buddha face, the statue that covers half of the capital. His gaze was calm. The waist bar is straight. The green robe hunted and flew in the wind. It seems to be looking at the FA. In the tea room behind him, Yang Yin and Nangong Chinro sat cross-legged. The head hangs down, trying his best to resist the power of the law. The higher the pressure repair, the greater the oppression. Wei Yuandan guaranteed if Xu Qian'an was here. I can guarantee it. He must have been standing, no matter what method is used. It's all standing. Yang Yin and Nangong Chinro heard this. A look of shame, because they knew that what Wei Gong said was the truth. And he really can't do Xu Qian'an's way at the moment. The capital is home to millions of people. There are countless warriors, including the people who have recently poured into the capital. Tonight, one by one trembled. It's like the end of the world. And this side of the palace, it seems to be isolated from the majesty of the law. Emperor Yuan Jing walked out of the palace accompanied by the old eunuch. Not affected at all. Emperor Yuan Jing looked up at the Buddha face with his eyebrows countdown, snorted coldly. In the Yongzhen Mountain and River Temple built by Sambo, the sword of the founding emperor roared endlessly. It was at this time, a cheerful laugh resounded through the heaven and earth. Luo Yuheng walked out of the near room. Hair dances in the wind. He stretched out his fair right arm. 5 fingers suddenly clenched. A rusty iron sword burst out of the pool. The sword aura is like a rainbow. Soared to the sky. Not much. The tip of the sword propped up an arc-shaped air claw with a diameter of 100 meters. That is the air wave formed by the resistance of the air. One more moment. The clear sword light illuminated the golden sky. Intersect with the golden law. The original thin line has grown unimaginably large. The golden body, statue, snorted coldly. 2 giant palms poked out of the rolling black clouds. It just happened to clamp the sword light as bright as a galaxy in the palm of his hand. The next moment, Jiao Lei exploded in the sky over the capital. Fa Xiang's hands crumbled into golden light inch by inch. The green sword light was mixed with golden light. blending into a magnificent rainbow of colors, slowly dissipate in the night sky. The glamorous female national teacher looked coldly at the night sky. There was not a trace of mood swings on his face. The original location in the palace. He also looked at the heaven and the earth. I secretly cursed an old, bald donkey in my heart. Wei Yuan, who was in Haoqi building, stretched his brows. He knew that it was Luo Yuheng who made a move. The sky returned to silence after the incense burning. Xu Qian's mood at the moment was a little complicated. It was Luo Yuheng who shot just now. It is worthy of being a second grade. If this sword is aimed at me, isn't that? If I had known from the beginning that this woman was so fierce, I must have dared not stare at her breast before. Su Erlang said with a chill down his spine. Both the red and the golden light were annihilated. As if nothing had happened. Su Pingji got up slowly. Chun Xingdao is good when he is young. The body is still strong. Not like me. Caught off guard, the station was unstable. But my father was also a good man back then. I don't even frown. Rush back and forth in the midst of thousands of horses. This time I was prepared. If you do it again, there will definitely be no gaffes. But his voice fell. Suddenly, there was a chant in the night sky. The calm clouds rolled again. A red glow lit up from deep in the clouds. Accompanied by Sanskrit chanting, dark clouds are surging. Another statue appeared. The statue is different from the previous one. This statue is even more vivid, more lifelike. Buddha Lotus is also more vicious. Bang! Ironclad. Su Pingji knelt again. But this time, neither Su Xingyan nor Xu Qian laughed at him. Because they weren't much better. All half kneeling. Hands on the ground. That's just at this time. There was an abrupt knock on the door. Little Bean Ding rubbed his eyes and stepped out of the threshold. Daddy is so noisy outside. Su Pingji shouted anxiously. Go back to the house. Don't come out, but Xiao, doubting, didn't seem to hear it. Raise the chubby fingers of the little face and point to the sky. Surprise said, there are gods in the sky. He was fascinated by it. It is not affected by the coercion of the law at all. Yongzhen Mountain and River Temple here. Luo Yuheng pursed his lips. The gold in the 9 Dharma incense of Taoism and Buddhism. Just angry eyes, this is a first-class bodhisattva can perform. With that, he turned and walked back. For now, it can only be handed over to the superintendent. Besides, it doesn't have much to do with him. The stargazing Tower Bagua platform at this moment. An old man with white clothes, white hair, and white beard is standing on the edge of the gossip platform. Stand with your hands over. The night breeze danced his beard. I am praying beautifully. The promise of the year. It's your business with the royal family. What does it have to do with me? The vastness of the Dharma phase. The opening was loud, but only one person could hear it. If it weren't for my Buddhism back then, you can step into a product. And now the Book of God has been born. If you don't give an explanation to the Buddhists, I will come to Beijing in person on the other day. The superintendent sneered. You dare to come to Beijing. The old man will send you back as a reincarnation. What do you Buddhists want? Vajra roared. It's how you want to be. You should know. Once the Book of God is reunited in the flesh, what a disaster it will bring to my Buddhism. The superintendent asked rhetorically. Do you know that? If the Book of God continues to be sealed in Sambo, what a catastrophe it will bring to me. The Vajra statue said. The basket that you see Tianjin poked out by himself. Let me be a Buddha. Dai Guang said impatiently. That's it. It's useless to say this. Doing things like you can only last for half a quarter of an hour. If you have something to say, hurry up and finish it. Don't disturb the people of the capital to sleep. Vajra statues say the conditions. 2 things, or track down the whereabouts of the remnants of the 10,000 demon kingdom. Recover the severed arm of the divine book. Either Buddhism borrows your heavenly machine disk for 3 years. Firm and upright. If you have the ability, you can take it. Vajra snorted coldly. Had to dissipate helplessly. Xu Qian'an looked at the sky. The statue of Vajra, that looks like a god and a demon, has dissipated. It wasn't as earth-shattering as it was before. He wondered. None of this was hands-on. Who does the Buddha statue seem to be? Say something. But no sound can be heard. Su Pingji and Su Erlang slowly exhaled. The whole person seemed to collapse. Xu Qian greeted Lining. Don't stand stupidly. Come and help your father and your second brother back to the room. Xiao, doubting, pointed at himself with a confused expression, as if to say you're serious. Su Pingji was brittle. The nephew scolded Lao Tzu and said, What's the use of raising you for 20 years? Xu Qian hurriedly went over to help. Send the second uncle and Jiro back to the room. Not long after, Xu Qian also returned to his room. He communicates with the monk master of the divine book in his mind. Master, did you see what happened just now? The next moment, the ethereal voice of the divine book sounded in his ears. Suitable. Xu Qian saw the thick mist gathering in the box. He said sincerely, it was fine. I just saw the big picture. I want to come over and eat a melon with you. Uncle Shen admonished him in front of the masters of Buddhism in the future. Don't call my name in your heart. Xu Qian nodded. Put the scene that just happened in the night sky of the capital. Paraphrased. Then he cautiously said, Master, a few days ago, I tested the monk from the western regions. A little bit of an idea of who you are. The warm face of the monk of the divine book showed a neutral color. Asked what the result was, Xu Qian replied to the monks of Buddhism, You are a traitor to Buddhism, because it won't kill you. That's why you were sealed. The monk muttered the words traitor to Buddhism. His expression gradually changed. There was a flash of sadness and anger in the depths of his eyes. The fog of this hidden world shook with it. The mist rushes like a river. It took a long time to calm down. The monk shook his hand and said, You have done a good job. I was reminded of some of the past. Sue's wife was relieved and happy about the past. Can you share it with me? But his thoughts just came to him. The fog in front of me closes. Then the whole world began to fade. He was kicked out of the group chat. Sue wife and collapsed on the bed. A lot has happened lately. That old aunt has a relationship with me. I turned around and asked Jean Liandao where he arrived. What kind of origin is it? Otherwise, it always feels like a stalk in the throat. The Buddhist mission did not know when to leave. During this time, I tried to keep a low profile. Master Durer is stronger than I thought. I'm at a peak of my mental power right now. It's almost possible to try to break through. But I saw the wonders of Buddhism's Vajra divine skill. I'm a little disdainful of Takeo's copper skin and iron bones. And the master of the divine book is incomplete. There is no such thing. Peng Yuan was raised by his stepmother. You can't learn this kind of profound learning. It was difficult for him to lie on the bed and diverge his thoughts. Suddenly, a familiar interstellar sensation came over me. Number 1 Transmission Road Chief. Leader of the Western Region's mission. The hungry master is the best. Xu Qian looked at the news with some surprise. It's rare that the flat, crazy demon number 1 actually took the initiative to send it to transmit. The Golden Lotus Daoist replied that Du Xie was a second-grade Arhat. Thief Killer Fruity. Xu Qian looked puzzled. Second-grade Arhat. That's in line with my guess. But what is the fruity taste of killing thieves? Chu Yuanji passed on the word that fruity is the saying of Buddhism. Luohan has 3 major fruity flavors. They are the sand thief and the Arhat. Among them, Arhat fruit flavor is the highest. Sand thieves and not return equals. Xu Qian nodded slowly. I see. I don't understand it though. But it feels like it's amazing. Chu Yuanjin said again. I feel like the second statue that will appear tonight. It's a bit outrageous. The first statue is like killing thieves and fruits. Cohesion is the power of the master of evil himself. The aura of the second statue is even grander, thicker. The Golden Lotus Daoist added that it was the Vajra Angry Eye statue, one of the 9 Dharma statues of Buddhism. Chu Yuanjin was suddenly no wonder. It turned out that the Bodhisattva made a move. Xu Qian'an thought for a while, subconsciously looking left and right. A chill grows down my spine. There was a kind of panic when the thief heard the siren. The Bodhisattva of Ipin, I guess I won't find my house. Steady, steady, steady. Every system has its own peculiarities. Shielding the heavens is a warlock's specialty. Believe in the strength of integrity. That's all he could do to comfort himself. At this time, Li Miaojin ran away. Spread the word about what you were talking about. What is the appearance of the Dharma that appears tonight? Heng Yuan passed on the book to explain that the Buddhist mission had entered Beijing. There was some commotion. Tonight, there is a reality in the sky over the capital. At this time, Chu Yuanjin interjected Li Miaojin. Why haven't you arrived in the capital yet? Li Miaojin said a few times. Wouldn't it be nice to let you live a few more days? Xu Qian'an complained in his heart. Feed the girl Jia. Don't talk so impulsively. Conquer people with virtue. Xu Qian'an rode the little mare, came to the yamen of the roots, went straight to the C-shaped secret poison storehouse. Command the officials in charge of the secret poison store. Take all the secret poisons related to Buddhism. There is a huge amount of information about Buddhism, stacked on the table taller than a person. Xu Qian'an screamed for an hour. I finally got what I wanted. On floor space. Buddhism ranks first in Kyushu, the entire western regions. Buddha is everywhere, and the territory of the western regions is twice that of Dafeng, 3 times more than in the north, 3 to 5 times that of the northeast, judging by the information that Princess Huiqing and I found out. 400 years ago, Buddhism blossomed everywhere in the Central Plains. Clarity is also a trend to become a state religion. It's just Confucianism back then. In the midst of IMHO, you're all at the peak of your garbage. Confucianism directly promoted the extermination of Buddhism. Buddhism was stunned and withdrew from the Central Plains without an overreaction. I have 2 guesses here. Either Confucianism was really powerful and lawless back then. Either the Buddhists don't dare to turn their faces directly with Dafeng, because they also have to rely on the great worship to seal the divine book. If Confucianism has not yet weakened, with the strength of Confucianism and Si Tianjian, Dafeng Guoli is undoubtedly the sin of Kyushu. Su wife and left the secret drugstore house, turned his head, and entered the Haochi building. The 2 large eunuchs with gray temples wore a light robe, bask in the sun at a leisurely pace. The eunuch laughed. Did you kneel last night? Xu Qian'an said disdainfully. I didn't shake my feet. Wei Yuan comforted Sambo to get out of trouble. No matter how you say it, it is a dereliction of duty on the part of Daebong. The Buddhist monks are just angry. Don't worry. The corners of Xu Qian'an's mouth curled slightly. Wei Gong thought I was worried about yesterday's events. You think I'm on the 1st floor? Actually, I'm on the 18th floor. Not only did I know that there was a bodhisattva yesterday, I also know the whereabouts of the monk of the sacred book. Xu Qian'an asked Dafeng neatly. Why should you help Buddhism seal evil things? Wei Yuan was slightly stunned. Did you find out something? Xu Qian'an immediately said that when the funeral was not investigated. I occasionally find a piece of history. 500 years ago, the prince accidentally fell into the water while playing in Sambo. Then I got a disease. Soon after, Emperor Wuzong seized the throne 500 years ago. 500 years ago, Buddhism in the western regions suddenly preached in the Central Plains. The formation under Sambar is engraved with runes. I'm surmising based on clues. That evil thing was sealed 500 years ago. Wei Yuan pondered for a long time, slowly nodded, and said yes. The seal under Sambo. It originated from a deal between Buddhism and Emperor Wuzong. Emperor Wuzong won Tao Wu Luo. There are countless elite soldiers under his command, but he wants to take the throne and become the emperor. There was one obstacle that he could never get around, and that hinder may even make his ambition to dominate disappear. That is the first generation of Xu Qian'an's solid evidence. A master of the warlock system. There is solid evidence. As long as the great dedication of the country is not endless, then no one can shake the throne. In the face of such a powerful statue, and there is no way around the obstacles, Emperor Wuzong chose to cooperate with the Buddhism of the Western regions. That time, it was the beginning of the alliance between Buddhism and Dafeng in the Western regions. Buddhism helped Emperor Wuzong kill the first generation of Jianzhen. Emperor Wuzong had to agree to allow Buddhism to preach in the Central Plains, and sealing evil things for Buddhism. The old man who was in charge of the government last time. Stand back and watch Sandor be blown up. Spectators are already a break in the contract. Xu Qian'an gasped. That's what happened. I'll just say it. Emperor Wuzong succeeded in seizing the throne. Then why did the first generation of traitors go? In the battle for the throne that year, Buddhism participated. Buddhism is a transcendent existence of the Buddha. Take out a traitor at the pinnacle of warlocks. It makes sense. Wait a minute, the old traitor. What role did it play in it? He knew the remnants of the 10,000 demon kingdom. Lodge on me the severed arm that the letter of God has closed. Even secretly helped me. What is the purpose of the traitorous government? What he's planning? He was not afraid that the Buddha would come to the door waving the big Buddha root. Crazy output. Xu Qian'an asked tentatively. Traitorous to him. Why does he do things? Evil escapes. Wei Yuan smiled. Said something meaningful. Who knows? As he spoke, he changed the subject. Early today, Master Du Evil has gone to the temple. He proposed to fight the traitorous government. The bets are the heavenly machine plate and the Diamond Sutra. I hope your Majesty agrees. His Majesty sent someone to inquire about Xu Qian'an's supervision. Agreed, and the Emperor list will be summoned in the afternoon. There's a lot of excitement in the whole capital to see. Not sure why. Xu Qian'an's heart suddenly sank. I felt a chill down my spine. Last night, the Buddhist monks made a big noise. The people of the city were talking this morning. The law and order, which had just stabilized, was a little restless. As a result, watchmen took to the streets to patrol. Li Yuchen and others, who had just returned to Beijing, were also making preparations. Xu Qian'an immediately stopped them. Head, you take my men to patrol over there. How about I take Ting Feng and Hirotaka to the other side? Li Yuchen asked rhetorically. Why is it so confusingly arranged? You take your people with you. I take my people with me. There's no need to mix and match like that. Xu Qian'an thought for a while and said, You patrol with a gong. I took my brother to the other side. That way there is no confusion.